welcome to another Zelda podcast. My name is Kady, and I'm here with...
David.
Hello,
I got the eyes.
David, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm so good. I'm quite well. I'm so excited to, after months of playing this game, I'm just so excited to do another proper review episode.
Yeah, we are doing Phantom Hourglass review. I am unbelievably excited for it. I think this is the first... Well, I played Ocarina of Time 3D.
That was really our first. We've kind of done a number of review episodes this season. We usually only do like 2, maybe 3 a season, but this is our 3rd already.
No, I mean I think this is the first DS, like proper DS game that I've reviewed.
I see. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Well, Ocarina of Time 3D was a 3DS game.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is the first like DS Zelda that I've played. And the first DS Zelda, right?
Yeah, 100%. But true to both. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, Phantom Hourglass came out at a time before the Wii existed, before Twilight Princess existed. I actually have a little bit of information about the development, but Eiji Aonuma was working on Twilight Princess while he was producing this game. There was a different person who was a director. It was a bit of an experiment because the DS was the first system that could truly kind of actually draw polygons and draw 3D artwork. Its screen resolution was really, really low. It didn't actually have a lot of processing power when it came to drawing those polygons, certainly nothing like the 3DS. And so there were still a lot of concessions, but it was decided that the Wind Waker art style would be used for Phantom Hourglass. I think because they didn't have to render any real light. It was, these big blocky characters works well on a tinier screen with less pixels. Kady, for you, how much of a heads up did you have about this game before we started playing it for review?
I knew nothing about it.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I literally knew nothing. I kept getting it mixed up with Spirit Tracks even.
Well, I mean, that tracks.
Yeah.
Because we're going to play Spirit Tracks 2 at some point because that's the sequel to this game.
Yeah, I like that this is a nice little trilogy. It's fun.
I mean, I guess it is, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's interesting. It's what, Wind Waker?
Yeah, Wind Waker and then Phantom Hourglass and then Spirit Tracks.
I think it's the same Link all the way through. No.
It is?
Well, I've heard that Spirit Tracks might be a different Link and a different Zelda like 100 years later, but I actually think, well, we'll know when we play Spirit Tracks. It's one of the few games I haven't played yet. But I'm under the impression that it is the same Link and same Zelda going into Spirit Tracks. Like, essentially, they have this game, they continue on and hit a continent and turn it into what's called New Hyrule in Spirit Tracks, is what I understand. But Phantom Hourglass, yeah, absolutely. I've got a little bit of, before we get into all of our thoughts. Oh, wait. I'm jumping forward.
You want to do listener feedback?
I do.
Okay. Do you want to start? Or you want me to start?
We have 3, but one of them's like a blotch of things.
We have 5. We have 5, but one of them is 3 on the same episode.
Like episode or something, comments or something? Well, I don't know. You know what? You went first last time. How about I go first this time? I guess it doesn't really matter too much. Here we go. So this is by Wim Pelkmans, Wim the Greenkeeper, over on what looks like it's a direct message on perhaps Instagram. Yeah, absolutely. So sorry, pardon me. I mentioned in the pre-show that I've just gotten over a cold, and so I still have a little bit of that vibration in my throat, in my esophagus. Yeah, so when Kady, this is a comment, a reply over on Instagram when you and I posted that picture of us working on the rest of season 7 when we were over at West Town Bakery. And in that post, it might have even been like a story, technically. I said, hey, any requests for episodes? And so we hear from Wim_the_Greenkeeper. Oh, okay. Well, Wim is asking a weird one. ROM hack and randomizer episode. This is not the first time we've had this request. We actually get this request a couple times a season.
Oh.
And I love it. I love the idea of exploring fandom culture that goes outside of the games. And there might be a time that we're able to speak to that, but right now we don't really have the resources, and I'm definitely not the I really don't have any firsthand experience with playing randomizers or anything like that. But maybe if there's a guest that comes along our way or someone we meet where we could have that conversation, that's cool. As well, it's a little touchy because there's kind of randomizers have to run on ROM hacks and stuff like that. And I'm not fully against that if you've also paid for the game, and also if the game is 20 years old. Is it, and it's not even available for resale? Is it part of history? There's a whole conversation to be had there. But I do think that this kind of subculture or artistic expression of randomizers and all these other ways to play with code in history is awesome. But also, Wim Pelkmans says, I just listened to the Little Heroes episode. Great episode. Really liked it. I was waiting for my favorite kid, Aram the Oracle games. Maybe in the Oracle games. Maple the Witch. 100%. A shame she wasn't in the episode, but you made me replay Breath of the Wild because of the Hatno kids. Thanks for the episode. Keep it up. Green heart times 100 emoji. Love it. That's the best, Wim. Thank you so much. I love it. Instead of 100 green hearts, it was an emoji on top of an emoji.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, we talked about those Hatno kids and went back in. That's so cool. That's awesome. I really enjoyed that conversation when you and I were talking about Little Heroes of Legend.
Yeah.
And let's see. There was one other thing that they said there.
About the
Maple.
Oracle? Yeah.
So Maple is a daughter, let's just say a child witch in the Oracle games. And she flies around and wreaks some havoc on Link.
Oh, okay.
I know you haven't played those games yet, so I don't want to put too much out there. But let's put it this way: you could just be walking around the overworld, and sometimes she'll choose to interact with Link, and maybe Link needs. Hey, wait! You've played in Phantom Hourglass. There are rats that bump into Link and try to steal his stuff.
Oh yeah, they have that in Wind Waker too.
And in Wind Waker, well, before Wind Waker, before Phantom Hourglass, a character named Maple did similar things in the Oracle games.
Okay.
For Game Boy.
Cute.
Yeah, cool. So that's a great pick. Love it. Thank you so much, Wim.
So this is a real fresh one. This is from our Top 10 Sorcerers and Magicians episode, and this is over on YouTube.
Holy moly.
This is from Triforce Liz. I am so happy you two are reviewing Okami next. If you haven't played it yet, I'm positive you guys are going to love it. It's filled to the brim with charm and beauty. It's somehow so similar to 3D Zelda while still feeling like it has its own distinct identity. The combat is so inventive and fun, and the adventure factor is off the charts. The dog humor is also perfection. If you couldn't tell, it's my all-time favorite game, though Zelda has always been my favorite special interest series. Kady was right on the money. My average playthrough is usually 35 hours.
Oh.
Thank you guys for always cheering me up with your Zelda and video game enthusiasm. 3 green hearts.
Well, thank you so much. What was the screen name or the person's name again?
This is Triforce Liz.
Triforce Liz. We hear from Triforce Liz from time to time. I love it so much. Thank you so much for the input. Yes, it's true. We are doing a review episode of Phantom Hourglass right now, and once in a while we like to do a review episode of what I would call a Zelda-like game, a game that is clearly a different company other than Nintendo, very much clearly trying to make their version of what a Zelda game is. And whenever we review these kind of Zelda-like games, it creates a conversation of what makes a Zelda game be a Zelda game and all the rest. But in my opinion, Okami, which I haven't played yet, you haven't played yet, this is going to be new for both of us, is in line with like the classic Zelda style game. And Okami also came out around the same time that Twilight Princess did, which is interesting. So I can't wait to play Okami next.
Yeah.
I actually booted it up the other day, and the intro is long. I think I sat there for 10-15 minutes before I was able to actually do anything, just reading text. But it's also kind of, that was like what games were 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Where a cutscene was just like...
Yeah, I started a list on my phone of different Zelda-like games, so hopefully we can do a lot of them.
I love it. Maybe one a season. It's been many seasons since we've done one. The last one we did, of course, was Beyond Good and Evil by Ubisoft. And Kate and I reviewed that many seasons ago. All right, here's two comments on our top 10 items we wish we had in real life episode. Let's see, over here, Eduardo Castles says, hello, I've been listening to this podcast forever now. You guys are my company during work. First of all, love it. I absolutely relate to David since I've been a fan of Zelda ever since I was born. At just 2 months old, my grandma put a SNES controller in my hands. My absolute favorite game is Twilight Princess. Cool. But I love everything Zelda. Minish Cap is also a favorite. I'm excited for you to play that, but I've said that before. It has a ton of charm. I absolutely love Kady too. She's amazing. Wow,
thank
Kady.
you.
I would love to know what are your thoughts on the upcoming Zelda movie? 4 green hearts and then 4 yellow hearts. Interesting. I wonder what that's all about. We've shared some of our thoughts on the Zelda movie already on some of our Patreon episodes. But I would say, and Kady, I'll certainly give you a chance as well, but I would say that my thoughts so far are, you know the expression cautiously optimistic?
I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
But I think I'm leaning away from the cautiously. I think I'm leaning into like good vibes optimistic.
Okay.
There's certain signs and certain indicators of what this film might be like. I think I'm very excited about the casting announcement. I think I'm very excited about the director, Wes Ball. I think his previous work actually is a nice portfolio for what a Zelda movie could be. And that's my thought. I don't know. Where are you at with this whole thing?
Yeah, I'm really excited, especially after the casting announcements came out. And yeah, I'm really curious. I'm very curious about what this is going to be, if it's going to be an original story or if it's going to be based on the games and kind of what the different races they might put in are. Are we going to see the Zora? Are we going to see the Deku Scrubs? Like, what are we going to see?
100%.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. So for now, quite excited. I guess we'll see when that first trailer drops. I'm sure the first one will be very teasery and probably not too much. Maybe it'll just get us used to seeing what Link looks like or who knows what. But anyway, the other variable that I'll add in here, Arifim, is that... oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. That's another comment. Eduardo Castles is, I think we should take note, and we spoke about this more in our Patreon episode, I think we should take note that the film is going to come out right around the same time that the alleged Ocarina of Time remake for Switch 2 would come out. And I personally feel that may not be an accident, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
All right. On the same, this was a whole bunch of comments on our real life thing. Why don't you go to the next one? I think this was all over on Spotify or something like that.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
So this is Arifim on the same episode. Probably a lame pick, but I'd take the Triforce from any of the games where Link picks it up into his inventory, example Skyward Sword. It grants you a wish, any wish, so yeah. If not, I'd probably take the Ocarina of Time as well, because I don't care about the consequences. Slowing down time or starting the day over is too good a deal for me. Great episode, and love y'all, with probably about 25 green hearts.
Do you remember, because we were saying like the Ocarina of Time would be dangerous?
Oh, it'd be so dangerous. Are you kidding me?
That broke my cough a little bit. Oh my gosh. Who cares? It would be too good. I love it. Yeah, that's great. Ocarina of Time as well. The Triforce as an item, I'm trying to think. Triforce, one of the games where Link picks it up into his inventory, like Skyward Sword. Does Link put the Triforce in his... Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I guess technically.
Yeah. Cool. Love it. Thank you so much, Arifim. And then lastly on the same episode, Will over here said, "Hi, been listening to the pod for 2 years and loving it. My number one item would be the tri-rod." Yes. So I could swim straight up the top of a mountain. Thank you for the podcast. A whole bunch of green heart emojis.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely. That would be swim up a mountain. I think so. Yeah. I mean, we could get into it, like, would the water be splashing into your face like you're like being tugged from the back of a motorboat or something? Would it be too fast? But I don't think we need to get into those details.
So you were talking about some of the game developer stuff of Phantom Hourglass.
For Phantom Hourglass? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Let me
let's just hop in.
I love it. So I went in and I did a little bit of research because I actually didn't know much about the development of this game. Mm-hmm. My introduction to Phantom Hourglass was the Minish Cap had come out. I was in college, and actually like in 2001 or something is when the Oracle games came out for Game Boy Color, and I started playing them when I was in my first year or two of college over at Columbia College.
So my brother was born.
Really? Well, I remember... What? Wait, what?
My brother was born in 2001.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Cool. And I kind of remember literally walking around campus the way people might have their iPhones in their hands right now with like a Game Boy Color. It's around here somewhere. Game Boy Color. Oh, this one. In my hand, and you just kind of, it was like an accessory, and you play for a little bit, and then you'd stop playing. But a year or two later, Minish Cap came out, and I remember walking around with my Game Boy Advance. I had a white one, this is a red one, and kind of walking around campus my sophomore year of college, and playing it literally like in the sound building that you and I have been in, like on the 5th floor, like side hangout areas. The student center didn't exist back then, and I would just be like on campus playing Minish Cap. But the whole time that Minish Cap was happening, this is when kind of the internet was getting into a place where you could like download or watch videos on the internet. And there was a trailer that got released for the Phantom Hourglass, which is an upcoming DS game. And the DS had just been out for a little bit. Everybody was wondering what the new Zelda game could be like. And in the trailer, they only showed what you and I would understand, and all of our listeners would understand to be like the bottom screen of this game.
Yeah.
So they only showed really like the action and Link running around, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Look, they're actually rendering real 3D because Minish Cap is still sprites.
Yeah.
You know, they're actually rendering real 3D, and it's the Wind Waker style. Isn't it cool that they're able to do this on a DS? And then I think it was IGN or maybe it was oneup.com noted, wait, the fairy's moving around kind of weird in that trailer. And all the gameplay footage, the fairy seemed to lead Link in a way. Mm-hmm. The fairy was always out in front of Link, and Link was following the fairy. And I think it was oneup.com back then. They're now defunct, but who pitched the idea? They said, wait, we may not be seeing the whole picture here. This is a touch-based interface game. Mm-hmm. Maybe you control Link by touching the screen, and this hadn't been released at all yet. And they made this, this posit, and it was all very exciting. And so that was my introduction to this game in real time back then in the day. And so just here's a couple stats real quick, not stats, but some info. The producer of the game is Eiji Aonuma, legendary Eiji Aonuma, who was the producer and director for Wind Waker. Along with Majora's Mask, we kind of know the history here. Eiji Aonuma is the Eiji Aonuma of Zelda these days. This is kind of where he was getting his start. The director, though, is Daiki Iwamoto. Now, I've never heard this name before, and it's honestly, I might be kind of slaughtering the pronunciation, but it's Daiki.
Yeah.
And Daiki Iwamoto started as a programmer at Nintendo and worked on some Mario and Zelda titles, but he was the boss battle director for Four Swords Adventures, which came out before this game. Uh-huh. That was the GameCube 4-player game. And he became the lead planner for different Zelda franchises, directing Phantom Hourglass. He also then went ahead and directed Spirit Tracks, which is, of course, the sequel. Mm-hmm. And kind of interestingly, we've already experienced Daiki's work because he also directed the Wind Waker HD remake.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of cool. Insisting on other titles. In Skyward Sword, he was in charge of planning Skyloft and the Sky.
Oh.
And also sits on the board. This is actually quite interesting because there's a secondary company that works with Nintendo a lot when it comes to Zelda games. Mm-hmm. He sits on the board at Monolith Soft.
Cool.
Do you recall Monolith Soft? I don't mean to test you or quiz you right now.
I remember the name. Are they not the people that did the Majora's Mask? Or is that something different?
That is something different. That's the people that went on to do Echoes of Wisdom and stuff like that. And I honestly can't remember the name right now, even though I've said their name 100 times in these episodes. But Monolith Soft, they're the company that does they make another big game series, and I'm totally forgetting it. It's not in my notes. But what happens is in Skyward Sword, Nintendo, they were making the Skyward Sword game, and they hired Monolith Soft to help make the areas that were between the dungeons. So all the areas that kind of like the big thing with Skyward Sword, it was like, yes, there's dungeons, but even the overworld feels like a dungeon. Even the overworld has puzzles to solve and all of that. And Monolith Soft helped a lot with that. They also helped with creating like the tiered system of upgrading things in Skyward Sword. If you're Googling them right now, you're going to get the name. It's a series of games. There's 3 of them out right now, and even some of them have been re-released for...
Oh, Xenoblade Chronicles.
Xenoblade Chronicles! I was remembering the C.
That's why they're familiar to me.
So the Xenoblade Chronicles people. Well, anyways, it's cool because also Nintendo hires Monolith Soft to help them. They helped them with some of the Breath of the Wild world building. Mm-hmm. They hired them again for Tears of the Kingdom, and so there's all these like connections here where with Daiki Iwamoto, working in all these different capacities. As well, he was the cinema... This is actually my favorite little piece of information. The director of Phantom Hourglass was the cinema scene... worked on the cinema scene unit as the assistant director for the original Ocarina of Time.
Nice.
So in many ways, he worked on creating the shots and the cutscenes and all of that. And there was a lot of praise for Ocarina of Time for it being very cinematic when it first came out. I'd like to jump back to Phantom Hourglass here. I feel that even with the limited hardware and the limited polygon count and the limited pixels, I feel like the cutscenes in Phantom Hourglass, many of them were quite cinematic.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've enjoyed the most about this game is I feel like I'm watching a movie most of the time.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many good small gags in the background from like, there's a scene when Link is talking to Oshu and it's on Linebeck's ship and you just see them talking and then Linebeck is in the background leaning on Tetra and he knocks her over when she's stoned and has to like quickly try and get her back up and it doesn't get addressed. It's like things like that were also like, we'll get into it, but when an Oshu towards the end becomes the Ocean King and he splashes the water and the water comes over, like Link I think is grabbing on and like stays, and then you just see Linebeck roll all the way to the other end of the screen because he got splashed through the water. I think it's so funny.
I've only recently experienced the end of the game again since the first time I experienced it, like very recently, within the last week or two. And I was shocked by how much like some of the ending cinematic cutscenes and stuff, how cinematic they were. And when I say cinematic, there's not a lot of power that the DS can pump out. It's not like there's like swooping shadows and camera moves, but well, maybe there are some actually pretty interesting camera moves that are pretty cool. So even with the graphics being kind of simple, there's a lot of smart choices being made cinematically. You know what I mean? So development started in May 2004. At this stage, the DS wasn't yet released, so they were designing a game for a system that wasn't fully done. You know, this is always how it works with a system that's not out yet. And so a lot of the team that worked on Four Swords Adventures worked on this game, and I often accidentally think that Capcom did Four Swords Adventures, but they didn't. That was a Nintendo project because there's a little bit of a spiritual successor of the Oracle games to Minish Cap. Then it kind of feels like they moved towards Four Swords with that Game Boy Advance remake, but that was all Nintendo. And then the Four Swords Adventures was also apparently Nintendo, and so it's easy to. I think I've even misspoken in the past. Anyways, a lot of the Four Swords Adventure team, they were kind of tasked to make the DS Zelda game, and initially, most of what they were trying to do was like a multiplayer game. They were considering, because the DS had all this connectivity, they were like, well, what if it's 4 Links running around, right? Just kind of like we did with the Game Boy Advance and Four Swords Adventures on the GameCube. And that's where a lot of the early prototypes actually started with this game. And it took a while for them to actually shift down into this other kind of play style. Now, real quick, I was going to actually say this for later in the episode, but you and I did experience the multiplayer version of this game at the Zelda Dungeon Marathon 2 years ago. That really was all that remained when it came to a multiplayer situation, is that I think it's like 3 people controlling the Phantoms and then 1 person controlling Link, right? Yeah,
it was cool. I didn't realize until I played Phantom Hourglass that that's what that was. Because they just brought me down and were like, hey, play this game. I was like, okay. I had no clue what game it was. So then when I booted up on my DS, I was like, battle mode. Yeah. And then I played and I got to the temple and I'm like, these are the guys I was running from.
Oh, when you played the adventure mode or whatever, right? The main game. Yeah.
So, I didn't realize until I started playing an actual playthrough of Phantom Hourglass that's what that was. But it was fun. I loved it.
There's some like light connections to Pac-Man Versus and stuff like that. There's all these threads to have happen. But the other thing I'd like to point out is that pretty quickly there was, once they learned that there was going to be a lot of touchscreen stuff happening with the DS. This is before the DS. You know, it certainly was not a release title for the DS. The DS was out for a couple of years by the time Phantom Hourglass came out. But apparently there was a heavy emphasis on having, if not all controls, controlled by the touch screen. And IGN Numa apparently was really pushing for this, according to my notes. I feel that this game expertly deals with touch controls and dual screen.
Yeah.
Like every single boss is an amazing reinterpretation of why it's important to have 2 screens. How did the touch screens, I'm going to look at my notes here in a second, but how did the touch screen interface and control affect you right off the bat? I was immediately intrigued. It did take me a while not to... Because normally when I play, I have my one hand on like the move buttons. Or I was playing on my 3DS, so it was the C stick, the control
little circle control to move around.
Are you talking about the control stick over on the left side of the...
I always mess up control stick and C-stick. The control stick.
Well, they both start with C, yeah.
Yeah. So, normally I have, that to move around and then the other on the buttons. So, it took me a while when I was first playing because my instinct would be to try and move with the stick, and I'm like, why am I not moving?
And it was probably just like queuing menus and maps up and down and stuff. Yeah.
So I learned to just play with like my hand behind the console so I didn't accidentally do anything.
Yeah.
But I loved the movement. I loved the attacks. I thought was super fun and interesting.
I mean, at the end of the day, you touch to attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought all of the controls felt really good, really seamless. The only thing that was a little touchy was some of the drawing aspects in the game.
Yeah.
Because not all the time, but a lot of the time, you would get the slate where you could kind of fast travel, and you would draw the little symbols, and sometimes it'll just be like, you draw the symbol, draw the symbol, draw the symbol.
The halfway through the game, that Triforce that you have to draw in the Ocean Temple, so many times.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, some of the ones, it was really finicky, but once you got it, it was like, all right, perfect. But that being said, I love the fact that you're able to draw on your map. And that there's this one island that is uncharted, and so you have to draw the island as you go around it, and you find out it's the shape of a whale.
Yep.
I love that kind of stuff. Or you find a code and it'll be like, oh, you better write this down, and it'll pause, and then you can write it down, and they're like, did you get it? And it's like, yeah, and then you can go and do it. It's cute. I love it.
Well, and it's interesting because it's kind of like a full circle moment with video games, because in the early days of like Nintendo games, even the original Legend of Zelda, there wasn't, the overworld map was kind of in the instruction manual, but it was very common for people who played the original Metroid on Nintendo or the original Zelda to literally use graph paper and draw their own maps. It was like, as a kid, that's just what you did. And you would keep your own notes, your own paper notes. And then as video games matured over the years, let's say even 15, 20 years, the games started the games matured enough where there would be in-game systems to keep track of those things. So if a certain character told you, go to the island east of whatever, or go find the forest that has the weird smell to it, or who knows what, in game, we had gotten to a point after 2 or 3 console generations, not just Nintendo games, but in video gaming in general, where you in your head would go, okay, I kind of remember that. I guess it's like a little mini quest or whatever. And by the time your character got to the forest that smelled weird, this is all hypothetical, some other character would be like, oh, we've made it to the forest that smells weird. Let's do the thing that person told us about, because they were responding to games being so difficult in the early 80s, where you had to write all that stuff down yourself.
Yeah.
And so GameCube games, which came out before Phantom Hourglass, GameCube games, Xbox games, PS2 games, they were all kind of in that space. We might find this with Okami a little bit, where there was a lot of, I dare I say, like hand-holding, but the games, they didn't really force you to remember things or memorize things to take later. It was more like, let's face it, even in Ocarina of Time, it was like, you learned that song. Well, you didn't have to go and write it down somewhere. Like, you could still pull it up in your menu and look that it's like up, down, left, up, down, left, up, down, left. You know what I mean? The coolest thing about Phantom Hourglass is that it's almost an accidental throwback to, no, you got to write it down.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to give this character is going to show you a spot on a map, or this character is going to give you some hint, or you're going to experience where a secret pit is in a dungeon. And if you don't literally draw it on the map that is conveniently part of the game, you're not going to remember. Like, that's it.
No, I remember being so shocked when I learned, obviously you were like, okay, I'm drawing on the maps in the overworld, that you could draw it in the dungeons as well. Because there's like one of the later Ocean Temple ones where you see one of the spirits walking, it looks like on air, and you have to write down his path so you're able to follow him later on. It's just it's smart. It's smart, it's cool, and I feel like it's a great use of the touchpad.
It was I think it was a ton of fun. Obviously the resolution's a little low, and I kind of had a few times where I felt like I was touching the pen in certain spots and it wasn't quite lining up, but you deal with what you got to deal with. I will say that I also learned that in early development, the original, like the first concept when they were building the game, was they had all the action on the upper screen, and the map was on the bottom screen, and you would touch the bottom screen and kind of steer Link around, almost like you were using a control stick on the screen. Because also I wanted, a few minutes ago you were talking about using the control stick on your 3DS, and I'd like to remind you, I have it right here. The original DS did not have that. It's just a touch screen. It's just a touch screen and an up, down, left, right, like a Super Nintendo controller, essentially. So there wasn't even an idea of like, we're going to move someone around in 3D space with a control stick, because it didn't exist. So on the original DS games like Super Mario 64, they would have you touch the screen and kind of drag your pen around, and that would emulate a control stick. And that's how the team started working on Phantom Hourglass. Yeah. And they decided, based on the things that I read, they decided that it felt too disconnected. And so they chose to swap it and actually put the map on the top screen, which is a little unconventional for the time for what games are doing with the DS, and actually put the main gameplay down on the bottom screen and have you touch the literal gameplay screen.
Yeah, I'm glad that they did that. I also was surprised that they put in... I kind of forgot when I was playing that the DS and the 3DS had the microphone. Yeah. So they used it sometimes in the game where they're like, we need to like scare this person. We got to figure out how to make a loud noise. And I'm running around like, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to hit. And then I'm like, there's a microphone. I forgot. Same with if you get to like different points with Beetle shopping, he will do the compliment card, and you'll give him the card, and he's like, all right, compliment me, and he'll pause for you, and you have to like say stuff. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I love it. I love hearing it and whatever. It's fun. It's a cute little way to keep things going.
I enjoyed that mechanic. It's a touch gimmicky, but I enjoyed it. It was a little divisive at the time because there's nothing really in the game that would inform you, I'm supposed to, in a meta way, blow at this thing or yell at this thing. You know what I mean? And so some people felt that it was maybe not fully conceived because it did get a little meta. You are literally blowing a thing. And also I noticed that this whole game gets a little meta where it'll tell you like, hey, save now, or like, it'll tell you, it'll speak to your system, make sure you push this button or something like that. But that's okay. I did enjoy that as well, and it's interesting. The DS had a microphone. The 3DS had a microphone. The Wii U controller has a microphone.
Really?
The Wii U controller has a microphone.
Oh, right, because in 3D World or whatever, you blow it to like move platforms and stuff.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I loved that Mario game as a kid.
Mario 3D World, yeah, absolutely. I wonder how they do it on the DS or on the Switch remake for those blowing areas. Maybe they just hold R button or something, you know what I mean, to like blow something. But anyway, so that also means that you can, we've talked about how you can play Phantom Hourglass on the Wii U controller. You can still blow at it and all those things. But I digress. They decided to have the actual touch happen on the same gameplay screen, and I kind of want to move on from the history here a little bit, but I really would like to point out that when this game came out, like the iPhone, seriously, the iPhone had just come out around the same time when the DS was announced. The idea that touch screens had existed since the 80s in different ways, but not really like the idea of a small screen you could touch, and certainly the idea that you could control a game just by touching the screen. These days, that's completely normal. Our Switches and our phones, and we can play our little puzzle games and touch a screen and move things around. We're touching screens to move through menus. But when Phantom Hourglass came out, the idea that you could control the game by touching the screen, and I'm not exaggerating this, was kind of revolutionary. Yeah. The idea that you would touch the screen and drag it around and Link would follow it, and they contextualize it by you're really actually moving the fairy and Link is following the fairy. They had to put that in there because just the idea, like if you were to just touch, how many like I don't know, Mario style games do you play on your phone where you just like shove, or you even play Fortnite on your phone, you just put your thumb on there and you shove left and right, you shove the other one up and down, and we all kind of know that those are metaphors for analog controllers and stuff these days, but that stuff didn't exist when this game came out. So it was really truly revolutionary. They were really kind of thinking outside the box a little bit with that. Yeah. How did you feel about and we'll get into the characters and levels and all of that, but how did you feel about queuing up the items, navigating the menus, navigating the map?
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad. It just reminded me of like, classic Zelda game where you only have one or two slots. So you just constantly kind of like swap things out. The only thing was it was a little difficult at times when you're in the middle of a boss fight and you kept having to switch back and forth and the action was still happening. Yes. So you could still get hit. That's where I struggled. But I think it was really only like one boss that was difficult for me when you're working with the Goron kid. And having to swap back and forth and swap your items and everything still happening. That was difficult. But Other than that, it wasn't too bad.
That was a lot. Now, I know halfway through playing, you and I kind of cued you into the hotkey system of the left shoulder button.
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about it. Again. I never used it.
So did you really truly play this whole game just with your stylus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stylus only.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I did 50% of the time. There was a lot of times where I'd be editing something here at this computer, and I would just lay my DS down on the table, the desk in front of me, and play like this. You know what I mean? I would just set it down and look down. It's true that in the original DS version, you could push left or right to queue up your item menu. So if you pushed left, your items would come over from the bottom and you could touch it, and it would go up into the little, the special button on the upper right part of the screen. But if you hold L, it would automatically switch to that weapon. And then if you let go, it switches away back to sword.
Oh,
so you can kind of like hold L and go bomb, 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 and then go back and go sword, 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 and stuff like that. And pushing up and down would swap your screens real quick.
Yeah.
That does, when the first time I played Phantom Hourglass, I used the hot buttons or whatever, hotkeys constantly. It was the way I played it.
Yeah.
You basically hold it like this, and you use this finger and these thumbs, and then you kind of hold the other hand and do the controls.
Yeah.
This time around, I did it like half and half. I did more just stylus only stuff, and I kind of wonder if that's because we as a culture are like 15 years into this, like, you can touch your screens idea and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably.
But I do agree with you. I also played the Dodongo boss without the, down on the desk, without me really using the hotkeys, and it was a lot.
It was a lot. Not bad, but a lot. Definitely not my favorite out of all the dungeons in this game, but there were so many good ones. I'm really excited to talk about it, but
yeah,
should probably go to break.
What, you saw the timer here?
Yeah.
You saw we're at 36 minutes? It's okay. It's a review episode. We go a little longer for these, but yeah, of course we can. Let me ask one more thing, and then we'll really get into the meat and potatoes on the other side of this break. How general combat, this is not a trick question, how did you feel about it?
I loved it.
Why?
I really did. So I thought it was simple in a way that I didn't have to think too much, but I liked, you can do like the spin attacks, but it was smart because it's like if you do 3 spin attacks, you're dizzy. You have to wait. You can do your classic slash, but the one I always ended up using was just when you tap them and he jumps and hits.
Yep.
Classic, easy, loved it.
A 2-year-old could do it.
Exactly. I liked it for the spirit bosses when you're finally able to kind of get rid of them. Being able to sneak behind them, because that was the thing too with the stylus. You can drag it as you normally do, and Link's running along, but then they introduce water later on, where if you're running through the water, they're going to hear you and turn you around. So you have to slowly drag just a little bit in front of him to make him walk, and then you can grab them. So there's a lot of smart mechanics that come into play. I also really love the way the different items are utilized and used. I think my favorite in this game was probably the hammer.
Yeah, wow, you get it late.
You get it, this is the last item you get, but I think the way they used it was a way that I haven't seen really used in the other Zelda games.
That is fair.
Like being able to launch yourself or seeing a button all the way on the other side of the screen that you're able to drag, because Ciel is holding the hammer.
Yeah.
So she can go over like the gaps and hit things for you. So I thought that was really cool.
That is cool. The reason I asked about how you felt about the combat before we go to break here is that, we were coming from a world with Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and even Wind Waker, where, and I guess actually, wait. Yes, and Wind Waker. Twilight Princess came out for GameCube, but it hadn't come out yet because it was kind of, touted as the Wii game. And combat had gotten to a point in Zelda games where you're holding L to Z, you're holding Z or L to Z target, and then you're holding R to hold up your shield, and then you're picking an item, and then you're waiting for a counterattack, and then you spam your B button to sword, 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 or you push forward in B for a stab, and back in B for a dodge, and B, all these different things.
Yeah.
The combat was really getting into a place that was, I think, really probably pretty interesting, but it was, from Nintendo's point of view, and IGN Numa expressed this in an interview, it was also getting to the point where it was kind of crossing a line where newcomers were thinking it was too complicated.
Yeah.
And if anything about the DS and the Nintendo Wii if anything about them are the pinpoints of Nintendo's history, is that this is the time where Nintendo was recontextualizing what video games were and what they could be. And this is when Nintendo was really, really focused on accessibility and introducing people to video games who wouldn't normally have played video games 3 or 4 years before, because video games were becoming hold L, then push A and B, and then R, and then switched for a back attack. And if you do down and B, then it's a different kind of attack. And it became, for some people that was awesome, but for some people who were just getting introduced to video games, it was a little too much. And so IG Aonuma has expressed that for them it was a real balancing act. They really, really experimented with and talked a lot about how simple should the combat be and how complicated should the combat be.
Yeah, I think it helped a lot too, because you still have your shield mechanic, but the way they do it is, if you're on a platform and these arrows are shooting out at you, you just kind of turn the way the arrows and move a little bit forward, so it's like he's moving his shield up to knock him out. But then you can also find spirit gems and upgrade the different fairies. And then they all give you different powers as well.
Yeah.
So, the red fairy is like a fire sword. I can't remember what the blue one is. I think it's like an extra shield. But I played a lot with Ciela, because Ciela is, if you do a slash, then it'll shoot like a wave out in front of you that can hit targets from afar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they kind of added some aspects of it where you could kind of complicate it a little bit more if you wanted, and kind of do a little bit more with your attacks, but it's not a necessity, which is cool.
Well, I think that is entirely by design, and I'm so happy you just pointed that out, because I think that's a great point to end on here. I think they designed it. They kind of, that Nintendo magic of, if you are let's just jokingly say, a 2-year-old, and you see the slime, and you tap the slime, and Link jumps forward and hits the slime, awesome, you can play the game. But if you want to get in there and really get complicated with the things you want to layer on it and play around, you want to do spin attacks and you want to do different things like that, you can have a little bit more combat. And the last thing I'll say there is I really think that the combat with the bosses and how it's expressed with the different views and the different items you use, that's where they allowed it to get a little more complicated and interesting.
Yes.
So it wasn't about holding 2 different buttons and pushing a third and then pushing forward on a control stick to do one move, which is where things were. It was more about I'm only gonna have to push 1 or 2 things, but which things will I do, how will I do it, and all of that. So yeah, let's go to break, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about some of our characters, and we'll push through the dungeons, /bosses.
Yes.
I think there are. We always love talking about the bosses of the different Zelda games, but this game genuinely shines. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
it's amazing and impressive, and it justifies the dual screen experience, in my opinion. I mean, I'll admit, I'm sure that they set out. They were like, oh gosh, what can we do? I know we're going to break. Oh gosh, what can we do? We got these 2 screens. We have to validate that these 2 screens exist. We have to make a game that truly uses these 2 screens. But I genuinely believe that in the hypothetical Post-it note board that they had in their office at Nintendo, every single idea that you could use dual screen for, they thought of it and they implemented it, and in my opinion, quite well.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you on the other side of the break.
See ya. And we are back, David. We are talking the meat and potatoes, as you say.
That's a throwback from the first season. My original co-host Kady, or Kate, would always say that. She was very Milwaukee Midwest, and she would always, whenever we got into the big part of the conversation, she would always say, "Yes, we're in the meat and potatoes." And so I just can't help but reference that a little bit.
So my phone. Sorry.
Feel free to throw your phone down on the desk at any point.
Phantom Hourglass obviously is coming straight from Wind Waker Link. Spent a lot of time in Wind Waker. Absolutely adore that game. And I adore that Link because he's young, he's funny, he's lazy. And what you pointed out to me that I didn't notice in Wind Waker, but I certainly noticed in Phantom, is the big eyes looking where he wants you to interact. Like I said, didn't notice it really in the Wind Waker game because, most of the time you're moving Link and he's kind of behind you.
That's a good point.
Whereas this game, you see Link from the front or the side more often than not.
I guess half the time.
Yeah. So it was really cool actually getting to see that interaction. And I mentioned it before, but Tetra, I'm glad that she stayed Tetra in this game.
She kind of did, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have complicated emotions over Zelda /Tetra in this game, actually.
Please share.
I feel like Tetra, you and I have spoken about how in our Wind Waker HD episode about how Tetra's so cool. The second half of Wind Waker, she kind of does just become the Princess Lost. I got to be honest, even though she is Tetra, she more than ever, I really felt the whole like just go save the princess vibes with this game. Like she's literally just turned into stone, or taken away. Then you get her and she's turned into stone. You're just trying to rescue the princess.
I agree.
The whole game.
No, I agree. That was one of the things that I was a little bummed out about this game is that Tetra wasn't really a character. I was glad that she stayed Tetra and that she wasn't turned into Princess Zelda and her personality wasn't changed.
Oh, that's true.
But you really only got to see her character and her personality at the beginning and the very end of the game.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit sad, but it was typical of that time of the Zelda games.
I think so, but I felt like a step backwards for me because we had Tetra in Wind Waker. We had like other Zeldas that were starting to be a little bit more, frankly, a part of the story. And so that was a little disappointing for me, just a touch. Didn't ruin the game, but it was kind of like, oh, Tetra.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will say, though, I loved the new characters that they threw at us.
Okay.
For starters, Ciela, the new fairy, the new Navi, as you might say.
Yeah.
I enjoy her personally more than Navi because I feel like she has more character and she's not just your navigation system.
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. I think that her and Linebeck's interactions were hilarious because they were constantly going at each other and butting heads. And I'm like, Linebeck, why are you fighting with this fairy that's literally like maybe a couple centimeters big?
Well, in a way, she's sassy and he's sassy.
Oh, it's
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. Do you have anything for Ciela?
Yeah, I do. I have some thoughts. I also enjoyed Ciela more, especially this time around, and I especially tuned into it more since you mentioned it in our last episode. And I'm really grateful for that because really her and Linebeck's story, they do kind of take their turn in the second half or the almost the very end of this game. And I was kind of happy that you reawakened that observation for me, because when I did start replaying, it was like, okay, this is the fairy that I just, that is my stylus and blah, 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 blah. But you're absolutely right. I think the one thing I did want to say that I actually put in my notes, even though they're off to the side right now, is Ciela is more of a character and more realized. I also think like Tattle is in Majora's Mask, so I think there's a little bit of a progression here with the fairies, but we don't talk about that right now. I think that Navi in her utilitarianness kind of becomes there's a little bit of a mystery to Navi these days, 30 years after the game came out. Why did she go away at the end? Where did she come from? There's not a lot going on there because frankly, let's face it, there's not a lot going on there. So our headcanons can go wild with all of that, and that's a lot of fun. But I don't think that's as strong as writing a character like the fairy here in Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah, and they give her a full backstory, too, that you, like, the whole point of playing through the game is you find out more about her, where you first meet her and she's with Oshu. Later on, you find out that he is the Ocean King and that she is one of the fairies that is around to kind of protect the Triforce and protect him. But her memories and her powers have been lost due to the big boss of the game, Bellum. And as you go through the game, she slowly gains more memories and she can remember a little bit more, but she knows she's still missing something, and she gains a little bit of powers as you get other fairies until the very end of the game, where she can literally stop time for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a great lead up. I also think that she's a great balance with Link as well, because she's also kind of that kind of rude character in a way, where she calls Oshu old man and all that kind of stuff, where it's funny though, because it's like, okay, this is kind of like your actual, she calls him grandpa a lot too, like this is you.
I took that literal, as if he was almost kind of literally her grandpa.
No, I think so too. That's what I was gonna say, is I think that it was cool because we got to see, even though we didn't learn too much about Oshu as a person, we kind of got to learn a little bit about him through his interactions with Ciela and how Ciela talked about him.
I would agree.
Being able to say, okay, so he is this caring guy and all this different stuff because of the way he interacts with Ciela and how she talks about him.
And she finds out she's like not the fairy of courage, but is she the sage of courage?
She's like the spirit of courage. Spirit of courage, or something like that. Yeah. No, I loved that. That's also why I wanted to play with her most of the time, because I'm like, courage goes to Link. So I think that's also why
cool.
I think she's the last one that you find all the spirit gems for to fully awaken. And then also, in my personal opinion, I think she's the strongest out of all of them. And the
like
most
her
fun to play
ability
with.
or yeah.
So I enjoyed that a lot.
I will confess I never even bothered switching.
Yeah.
I never did. Yeah.
No, I switched through them a couple different times. I'm a completionist, so I went through and I got all 20 spirit gems for each of the different spirits.
Yeah.
Did all of the side quests. I did not beat the big bomb bag shooting minigame because it's impossible.
It's pretty embarrassing,
It's
Kady.
impossible. But I love the way shooting is done in the game. I love the archery mechanics in the game a lot.
Yeah.
So I did beat the archery game, like to get the heart piece, which is very difficult, but it's very fun. So.
What is it about the shooting that you like? Because if you didn't use that L button hotkey, I think it's a very different experience.
Yeah. No, I would, go on the screen and hold and try and like move and direct. And then that's where it became interesting and fun with the archery mini game, because you're shooting from the bottom screen at stuff at the top screen that's moving, and you want to hit in sequence, because if you shoot and you miss, then you go all the way back down. But if you hit a girl, then you get minus like 20 points or something. And the only way to beat the game is if you don't miss any of them. You have to hit every single target correctly in a row. And that's where it becomes really fun.
It's cool because it does feel like aiming, because you can't, that's one of the examples of where you can't just like tap the thing for aiming. Kind of when you use the arrows down on your game, when you're playing just the normal game, you kind of can like, drag your arrow over. So for me, when I would use the arrows, I would use the hotkey a lot of times. And so you'd select the arrow, it goes up in the little circle in the top right or whatever, and you hold the L button and he goes into shoot mode. And then you can kind of tap and drag wherever you want to shoot.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And the L button kind of metaphorically felt like the pulling back of the string, and then you would touch and release. And so that's what that experience was like for me. But yes, I thought that was super cool. I also noticed something while we were talking about this. I didn't even ever really consider this. But Link, am I going insane? Link does not have a fairy in Wind Waker, right?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, right. Because because Navi in Ocarina of Time was supposed to be obviously the navigation component, but also she would go fly out to like the baddies so that you would know, oh, I'm highlighted on said baddie.
Yeah.
And in Wind Waker, one of the things that actually was a little jarring for me the first time I played it was that there would just be an arrow pointing over the bad guy. And I was like, oh, we're not doing the fairy thing anymore. It's just an arrow now. And then that happens in Twilight. And now I think in like Breath and Tears, it's like a little triangle. They've kind of muted it down a little bit. But this is the first time that Toon Style Link gets a fairy.
Yeah, and it's cute. Ciel is amazing, but the real highlight of this game for me was Linebeck.
I knew that you were going to love Linebeck. I knew
love
it.
him. I love him so much. I love those kind of Flynn Rider-esque characters that they are so sarcastic and they're so full of themselves, but also you can tell they have a little bit of a soft spot here. I think that his introduction to Link was really good. And his motivation was very fun because he doesn't care. Bellum can take over the world. I don't care. Give me treasure. I'm a pirate. This is what I do. So going through that journey with him, especially as he interacts with Ciela, because Ciela is all about the greater good and he's all about self-serving himself, constantly butting heads there. But I also like that the Ocean King Oshu kind of accepts that and takes advantage of that with Linebeck a little bit.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Towards like the middle-ish end of the game, it's revealed that Bellum is the big evil boss here, and it's like, Link, you have to go save Bellum. Link and Ciela on board. We gotta save Tetra. Linebeck's like, why would I do this for this kid? I don't even know Tetra. I'm out. Like, now you're telling me that there's no treasure. Like, why would I do this? And then the Ocean King is like, well, once I get my powers back, I can grant you one wish.
That's right.
And I like, because again, the cinematography here is amazing because it's like slow-mo back of like Linebeck, and then he turns around and it's this epic music, and he's like, we gotta hurry, Link, we gotta save Tetra and save the world, as it's like this crazy music. It's so good. Every single scene with Linebeck is amazing. From him getting splashed and just randomly in the background rolling across the screen, to in the background him like knocking Tetra over, when they kind of allude to this, his ex-girlfriend Joanne, who's the pirate, comes down and you have to fight her. He's hiding in the barrel, and or the box.
Yeah, barrel box, yeah.
And the last time you have to fight Joanne, it becomes clear that she knows that he's in there because she talks to Link and she's like, and you in the box over there, like just whatever. And then she goes up and Linebeck pops up and he's like, what's her problem? So I love him. It's great. I like that you can upgrade his ship with different parts too.
The ship part thing is interesting. I'd like to point out too, because part of your experience as a Zelda fan is that you're playing the games, let's just say out of order, not on purpose or not by design. But this game came out a good 5, 6, maybe even 7 years before Skyward Sword ever came out. And I think Linebeck is like massive Groose vibes.
Yes. Exactly. That's why I really ended up loving Groose in Skyward Sword, too.
Yeah.
I didn't like him at the beginning of the game, but at the end, when I finally kind of understood his character, adored him.
My hot take with Linebeck, I appreciate Linebeck and I like Linebeck a lot. I think he's the standout character in this game. In fact, I think he probably is the one that has the most growth, clearly.
Yeah. More
than Link and Tetra. Tetra has 0 growth, unfortunately, I'm sad to say. Link actually kind of doesn't have any growth either here.
Yeah.
The kind of standard, like, Link is the avatar for the player is very much in play here.
Yeah.
Link, with the exception of a couple like, what? Ooh, ahs. His whole growth happened in Wind Waker. You know what I mean? Like him becoming a hero. He's kind of a hero now or whatever. He's doing his thing. There's not a lot of growth there, and that's okay, but it's what it is. Linebeck is the one with the growth.
Yeah.
Linebeck, the first time I played this, drove me insane. I couldn't stand him. I was like, get out of this story, get out of this game. I don't need you. You're just some kind of weird device so that I can like pilot this ship around. I was really negative on Linebeck back when I was, 24 years old or whatever it was. And this time around, I did see it through a different lens, I think, and perhaps the lens that you were seeing it through. The slapstick I found charming, but it didn't affect me as much. I just don't think I was in the mood for it. But I did think it was very, charming and like fit into the cartooniness of the game.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate by the end of the game, Linebeck, when he gets his wish, you see it coming a mile away, but that's okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't pick treasure. The part that really got me with Linebeck is when Ciela is basically saying goodbye to him and they kind of like insult each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And she flies away, but he turns. I don't know. It was like one little shot. It's okay if you don't remember it.
No, I remember.
Yeah. And the expression on these like blocky, choppy graphics was perfect. The animation of how he turned, like for me, that was the moment of his character growth. And I was like, all right, everything else was kind of front layer. Like we for me, it was kind of like, you're a really obnoxious, narcissistic, self-indulgent character, selfish character, even in the beginning.
Yeah.
We know where this is going. We know you're probably going to take a turn. And he did, and that's cool. And I think that's a great story to tell. But where some of that was subverted just a touch and where some of the real emotion hit was like just in these small moments for me. Exactly. When he had these subtle little animations. And those spoke to me a little bit more than like even like all the crazy silliness. However, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that's why this game is so good, because of all of those cutscenes and stuff. It's not really the main... I mean, you obviously are wanting to read and focus on the dialogue. It's a lot of the stuff in the background that you want to focus on. And it's just these subtlety moments, subtle dialogues, things, subtle movements in the animations that makes you really understand the full story and the growth. And that's where I realized Linebeck fully changed, was towards the end when you finally beat everything and Linebeck forgot that the wish was even a thing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The Ocean King has to remind him, and he's like, oh, right, that's a thing.
Well, you know what really hits, and this is obviously very end game, but when he's kind of like realizing that he didn't know that he was possessed by Bellum. This is of course end boss stuff, and maybe we'll get there. But what I think where it really like his world cracks in the most beautiful way possible is when you can almost see him processing. It's so weird with these chunky little graphics. You can almost see him processing that he could have literally hurt Link.
I know. Oh, that's the thing. I love how much he grows to care about Link. Yeah. And it feels almost like a big brother or like an uncle situation for me.
Oh, but interesting.
I was devastated at the end of the game when Bellum overtook Linebeck, because at this point I've watched too much anime. When a character gets a lot of growth real fast, that normally means they're about to die. When this happened and I had to fight Linebeck, I was like, oh my god, I do not want to accidentally kill this guy. I really hope that he's okay.
Oh my goodness.
So we do the fight, and the fight's really fun, and it's a really cool mechanic, which like we'll get there. But yeah, at the end when he's unpossessed and he's like did I hurt you? Like, I'm so sorry.
He's on his hands and knees.
Yeah, he's devastated. And then, you know, finally it moves on. I think that's the moment where he's like, I don't even remember this wish, because why does the wish matter when I could have hurt this person? And he kind of has this full circle moment.
I agree.
But his wish at the end, I think, is amazing.
Well, it's just to get his boat back, which is perfect.
He just wants his boat back.
Because, you know, you could read into it a lot, but the quick version is, you know, the thing that he realizes how much he loved his boat, because I would like to think that what he's really loving is the adventures that are available by having the boat. You know, maybe there's some ownership over the boat, the way you might feel love and ownership over a pet or a horse or or even a car or something like that. And I think there's some of that going on, but my interpretation, the way I felt it, at least, and maybe I was reading into it, was after he had the revelation with Link and decided to, you know, the boat had sank and he decided to just wish for the boat back. It was almost him wishing just for those times together on the boat again, you know, and even if he knew, like, okay, Link might go move on or whatever, or Link, and I guess maybe in Spirit Tracks Link does, I don't know, we'll find out. But that was the important thing. That was the thing. It was the thing he loved, not the thing he thought he needed, is what he wished for. Exactly.
And that's, I think you nailed it on the head, because if Linebeck didn't care about those things, he could have asked for $1 bajillion.
Yeah.
Buy this crazy cool new boat and a whole crew.
Oh my gosh.
And go out but that's not what he wanted.
You're right. He could have just asked for money for a new boat, but he asked for his boat. Or an even
cooler boat. Or no, he asked for his boat, and even Ciela called him out on it, being like, that's your wish, like, why would you wish for that, like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because I just want a boat because we live in the middle of the ocean. It was, this is my boat, I've gone through so many things with it, and I've realized I don't need anything else. The boat was there from the beginning. I don't need all these crazy things, because I just need to live by my means, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great evolution there, and then the final cutscene of the game is shocking. It took me a second to process it, because Oshu just, everything has happened, but he sends them back in time.
Right.
Where it's 10 minutes after Tetra and Link went onto the ghost ship, and you sit for a minute and you're like, did this not actually happen? Because there's a great interaction with Tetra and her crew as they're fighting, and she's like, you idiots, obviously I was on this ship and this stuff was happening, and they're going back and forth, and Link's listening, and then he kind of like looks off, and then you see Linebeck on his ship kind of sailing away.
Very, very Link's Awakening there, actually, in a way, where it's like it happened but it didn't happen but it did.
Yeah, and that's when you're like, okay, so this did happen, but Oshu's the god of time and of the ocean, so he was able to send us back so we didn't miss all these things.
Oshu's also the god of whale eyebrows.
That's very true.
Those were bangers.
Those were crazy.
I loved it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Oshu probably being one of the Leviathans? You know, obviously one of the Leviathan skeletons in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I was excited. I was like, oh, I loved Oshu as a character. He wasn't as prevalent, but whenever he did show up, it was like very fun, because he was a character that didn't take things too seriously, which I thought was cool to see, because normally when you have these like godly or like very powerful characters, they're very stoic and they're like, you must go and do this, and he wasn't like that. He liked going back and forth. Again, I think it plays really well with Ciela's character, seeing them interact, because you realize he is this kind of charming old man that just likes having family, basically. Interacted great with Link and embraced who Linebeck was. He didn't actively even try to change Linebeck. He's like, your person, all right.
Actually, you're right.
He didn't try to change him. He was just like, all right, well, we need you to finish this, so I'll just give you a wish. And he's like, all right, cool.
And that's wisdom right there.
It is. Yeah. Because I feel like he probably had a good feeling about Linebeck, or he knew something, and he's like, you'll learn as you go through this journey, but here you go.
Ooh, there's a lot of layers there. A lot of layers that I want to talk about, but I don't want to get into like a 40-minute conversation. But it's about like being a leader, or being a parent, or being a figure of not needing to tell someone to do something, but allowing them, giving them the tools they need to do their journey. You know, it's very, I think that's kind of where it's coming from a little bit.
Yeah, and it works great, because with Linebeck and just people like Linebeck who are naturally kind of a little bit full of themselves, for them to have that growth and change, you can't tell them, you need to do this. They're not going to want to listen to you. Give them a little bit of room for them to look inside and kind of experiment and grow on their own, because that's how it works best, I feel.
Yeah. You know, the whole Linebeck gets possessed and becomes a baddie. That also happens at the end of Twilight Princess. And it's not really a spoiler. I think you kind of know it happens a little bit. And it's not, to say it's a trope might be a little dramatic, but it happens a few times in Zelda games. And so when it happened in this game, I remember it happening the first time around, but when it happened this playthrough, almost 20 years later, I did kind of at first have the emotion of like, oh, we're doing this again. But I'm realizing it's one of the earlier times in the series in release order that it did happen. And I don't think it was just, and what I liked about it the most is everything we've just discussed, in that I think that instead of it just being like, oh no, that character I like just got possessed, I guess I have to fight a different form because Bellum's this weird octopus slappy tentacle thing, and now I have to fight. Like, you can look at it another way, where the game designers are like, well, we got this idea for a slappy tentacle bad guy, and then we got this other idea. This other half of the team over here has this idea for a really cool mechanic for fighting a knight character. And they're like, oh shoot, well, how do we get the slappy squid guy into the knight's costume? Well, I don't know. We got another character around. Could he possess something? Like, that's sometimes, I'm very much joking right now, but like from a game design point of view, sometimes you design it backwards on purpose. Yeah. And you go, we got to get here. We like this mechanic. How can we justify it? And for me, it felt that way until they really did pay it off with the story, with Linebeck's reaction.
Yeah, and I also like it because with Linebeck as a character, it could have been how he could have turned out as well. He could have become this evil baddie and used this wish to gain power and all this, but he goes to that character development and takes a different path, which is really sweet.
And he did have the brevity to stab Bellum with that sword.
Yes.
In the little tentacle. And even he was like scared of himself when he did it.
I loved that moment.
Yeah, and that's really what set the whole thing off, I think.
Yes.
Like he had, and really, actually, you know what? That's right. It's not so much that Bellum possessed him. Bellum chose to do that because Linebeck triggered it by having a moment of brevity and stabbing.
Yeah, Linebeck finally, like the lion from
Ooh, what you talking about?
The lion with courage in Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
He finally had his courage moment where he broke free and actually put his life on the line, and he was doing it for other people. Yeah. Not him trying to get things from his own means, not trying to constantly save himself and push a Link to do stuff for him. He finally realized that they needed help, and he stepped in.
Yeah, I agree.
So good.
I imagine we're going to get into these temples and stuff, but I just want to ask real quick, how did you feel about Bellum as a baddie in general?
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah?
I was really pleased that it wasn't another Ganon story. Love Ganon, but
this is one of the few.
It was cool that it was a whole different character because we dealt with Ganon in Wind Waker. We kind of did his thing there.
You're right.
So who else is going to come if Ganon is gone? And that's where Bellum comes in. Bellum is this really cool opposition to Oshu. You find out that this is something that happened a little bit ago. He has this life force draining abilities, but I loved his possession powers where he was able to take over the ship. He was able to take over Linebeck. Yep. He's kind of this like parasite in a way. Yeah. That's constantly trying to like possess different things, so you can't really get to him until finally you're able to.
Great. I love it. That's awesome. I genuinely was wondering what you felt. That's cool.
Yeah. And then also, before we get into the dungeons, I wanted to speak to a little bit of some of the side characters.
Oh, I'd love to.
When you go and you see the Red Lion's ship floating around the water. Dude,
what?
Have you not done this?
The
King of the Red Lions?
King of the Red Lions is in this game?
Kind of.
Okay.
So
maybe I didn't
you can go to a traveling ship on one of the quarters, and you go to it, and it's the King of the Red Lions ship, and you're like, oh, excuse me?
What?
You get on it, and it's not actually the King of the Red Lions. Someone made their ship look like that, and it's a guy that's dressed as Link.
What is happening right now?
He believes that he is the hero that did everything in Wind Waker. And you have to like interact with him and do different things with him. And you find out his brother is one of the ones that has another ship in a different quarter. And he brings up his brother who believes he's this hero. And you have to like, you fight with him a couple different times and practice sword stuff to get different things. But this hero, end quotes, guy, you go into a ship and he's like, oh, how great it is that you've dressed as me and an ode to who I am. But you can get... there's like a little fetch quest at one point in the game where you go and do different things and you get these hero clothes. And supposedly they're clothes that only honest people can see, and you can't see them. Because Link is not an honest person in these games.
You are blowing my mind right now.
So you go and you take them to one person and they can see them. And they're like, no, but go to this person. They might need these. Go to them. No. And finally it ends up with the guy on the ship that thinks that he's Link.
Can see them?
Yes. And you give them to him because I guess he's technically an honest person. He's honest in the sense that he thinks he's honest. So you give it to him, but yeah, the whole thing is like you can't see these clothes and it's really confusing. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, that character is very funny.
I guess I've only played through the game twice now, the first time when it first came out and then for this review, and I've poked around and played it here and there. No idea this even existed in the game.
Oh yeah, because all the traveling ships look the same on the overworld map, but all the different quarters, they're different ships.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's also one of scientists that are like studying different things that you can go on to, and then you can talk with them. And this is part of that fetch quest where you like go and you go to the girl that's pretending to be a mermaid, Joanne. Or no, not Joanne.
Did not experience this.
What? Oh my god, David.
I just kind of went dungeon.
One of the first islands you can go and talk to this guy, and he's the fisherman guy.
Oh, wait, yeah, he's obsessed with the mermaid. I never found her.
Yeah, if you find
I even went to the island. So sorry, I went to the island where you kind of cut to the other side, and I think you're supposed to see her. And I kind of thought they were like doing a callback to Link's Awakening.
Yeah, no.
But it just kind of faded away in my gameplay.
She is I believe she's like right by the bridge, like right outside his house. You find, I think they changed it in this, and it's like a mermaid necklace. But in the original, or no,
this is the original.
No, this is the original. I think. Yeah. Wait. Is it this one where?
There's a lot of mermaids in a lot of Zelda games. There's like go find the mermaid.
I was gonna say one of them. Oh, I bet it was in Link's Awakening where it was originally her bra that you find.
Okay, no, yeah, you're absolutely right. It was kind of it was like in the original Game Boy game. It was like a top, and then they changed it to a scale or a shell.
Yes, but in this one, you find her. You bring her back into her little pool. You find out later on through letters that you're transferring through the mailboxes that one, she's Joanne's sister. The pirate girl Joanne.
Well, I remember. I got that letter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And two, she's not a real mermaid. She's a girl pretending to be a mermaid.
Okay.
She likes to pretend, but also because she's in love with the fisherman, and so she just pretends to be a mermaid.
He's got the pool ready, which was a little creepy actually, but like or it was him trying to like care and serve. You.
So it's this fun back and forth where the mermaid girl is like, "Is my sister still trying to pretend to be a pirate?" And then Joanne's like, is my sister still pretending to be a mermaid?
That's funny.
So it's this funny back and forth there.
I remembered the letters, and then somewhere around after the Temple of Courage, a lot of that stuff just faded away from my gameplay. Mm-hmm. Anyways.
But yeah.
I love that you're a completionist because you're able to bring these little tidbits to these conversations. I didn't even know like some of this stuff existed.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of cool stuff. I loved talking to all the Yuke. Or no, not the Yuke. The Yuke are the ones that they
snow
fight
people,
with.
Right?
Anuki.
Oh, the Anuki.
The Anuki.
Yeah.
I loved their introduction as a race.
I kind of forgot about them. When I went into that island, I was like, wait, who are these people?
I think that it was interesting seeing their hatred of the Yuke. Mm-hmm. They're constantly at odds. You go and you find... I loved the little mission where you have to figure out which one of them is not an Anuki.
A classic logic puzzle, little detective work there, yeah.
Really fun. A great way to make use of your map by marking off who and what people say. But then when you do that final boss, you find out that the Yuke were being controlled. And so you go back through where you fought all these Yuke, and they're just standing there, and you can talk to them. And they're just like, yeah, we're sorry for all this, and blah, 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 blah. Like, we didn't mean to do anything. And then it kind of makes me think, too, is I'm like, well, did the Anuki just suddenly start hating the Yuke? Or was this like a culture war that's been going on here for ages, and now finally they have a real reason being like, okay, now they're evil, and they are coming after us. Our feelings towards them are justified. You know? So that's where, because the Yuke do look very different. They look very scary, but they're very soft-spoken and very kind people once you actually meet them. Yeah. So it's very interesting there as well. It's kind of this whole world. It's interesting.
Well, for me, it struck me as like it had been cultural for generations.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Yeah.
And I think it was that thing where they're like, we knew it. We knew you guys were evil all along.
Dang.
And it's like, no, they literally had no choice in this matter.
Check your books, check your history.
There you go.
Yeah, a little bit.
So the dungeons.
All right, sure.
If you're open to moving on to those.
Mine are kind of like based on basically like the items that you get, and then the well, okay, wait, I have to ask you this. This is a question, for the ages. It's the big question about this game. How did the Temple of the Ocean King strike you?
Right.
This was the I'm so sorry, I'm kind of interrupting. This was the most divisive dungeon maybe in Zelda history, even over water dungeons or water temples. And it was the biggest thing in the reviews that split critics.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
The first time or two that I did it, loved it. Thought it was great. Then the next couple times that I did it, where you weren't making any actual progress through it, you were just kind of reaching the same point, I kind of was getting bored with it. Okay. But then when you started making progress again, awesome. And then as a completionist, you got these abilities to start getting more of the chests. You have to go through, because they give you that option then where you can just jump back to where you were.
With the little yellow flame thing? Yeah.
And you'll have the same time that you had, and you can continue. As a completionist, I couldn't do that because, okay, I finally have this item.
Oh,
now I have to start at the top.
Yeah, my grappling hook will go get the thing in level 1. I don't want to skip it.
Now I have the hammer. I have to start back at the top. Sure. Now I have the arrows. I have to start back at the top.
Sure.
So that's where it kind of got a little bit sloggy for me. But that being said, they kind of accounted for that. And that if you start back at the top, say you get the grappling hook, there's a couple parts now where you can connect it and fling yourself up higher and skip a couple floors.
Oh, a couple floors.
Or like skip a floor or two.
Sure.
Same with when you're able to finally... CL is like fully formed. You can fight back against the spirits. You destroy all the spirit, like the knights. Now you get a chest. Go down to fight all the knights. You get a chest. So it was kind of slow moving a little bit, but like I said, the beginning I really loved. The middle parts were kind of, and then towards the end I really enjoyed it again.
I think I had similar experiences. I think it's supposed to be I feel like the Temple of the Ocean King on paper is awesome. It's like exactly what a Zelda thing is supposed to be, where you go in and guess what? The most fun about a classic dungeon is that you experience half the dungeon and then you get some item halfway through and it recontextualizes the whole dungeon, even the first part that you were already in. And then you go back through the first part of the dungeon and everything means something different because you can blow something up or you can grab a higher item or you have arrows to trigger switches or something like that. And that's when Zelda games are really at their best. So like on paper, this temple, this dungeon is almost like, hey, guess what? What if we do that with every layer, every aspect of this? Is every time you go back into it, it has a new context. And yeah, the first time you're on floor 1, 2, or 3, you can see parts where you're like, I probably can bomb that later, or these posts are weird, I bet you I can grappling hook, or what is this little strange pattern, or oh look, why is this mound of ground here, until you get your shovel, and all the different things. And it is fun initially, again for me, those first couple times, being like, oh cool, I don't have to do the whole really super tedious thing with the phantom walking around, and I can just bomb here and go there. And so like on paper that's perfect. For me, ultimately it was really uninspired. For me it was like, well, there's not really there's no magic here. There's no magic in exploration is what I was feeling. I was kind of more like, I think like it started feeling like homework a little bit. Like, well, remember how you can skip, you don't have to do this. Well, okay, wait, let's express it this way. How did you feel about the timer?
The timer was interesting. That's also why I was like, well, even if I wasn't a completionist, I'd want to go back because now I have more time in my timer and I have these abilities to go faster. So towards the end, it was really fun because I'd done it enough times by then that I remembered everything. Yeah. And I was able to get down there really quickly. But especially in that middle part, when you haven't been to the Temple of the Ocean King in a minute and you've kind of forgotten how to do things, and then you made it to the bottom and you're like, okay, well, now I only have 2 minutes in my timer, but I completely forgot how to do these things in the first place. That's where it's like, but once you get towards the end and you've done it a couple times and you keep doing it kind of over and over again, that's when you remember everything. You remember how quick you can do things, and you can kind of cut corners in a way where you can make it down really quick and it becomes really satisfying.
I agree. And I think they wanted you to just scribble on your map like crazy. And I found myself doing that. Just about everything. Every little pit, every little mark where there would be a bomb hole or a whatever. I was marking all of that on my map. So that when I'd come back, I even started tracing my routes. Like my new route, I would trace it on the map. And everything. So when I got in, I'd be like, yep, I know what to do. For a few times about that middle area for me, maybe it was after you get Tetra back. And I had gone down, and you're getting down to that, where you have to start drawing the Phantom Hourglass, or you draw the Triforce, or the whatever, around that area where things start to change. You've got the super powered phantoms and stuff like that. I had an impasse moment. It was maybe a month ago where I had gotten down there and I just didn't use my time very well. And I was at the point where, to your point of like, okay, I haven't been here in a minute. I kind of don't remember. I only have 2 minutes left, just like you said. But it wasn't enough to really accomplish to get to the next room or something like that. And I just kept cycle dying. Like, just I couldn't get past it. And eventually I had to start the whole thing all over and kind of go through, and that's where the fun was lost for me. But I do feel like, again, on paper, this is exactly the kind of dungeon that I would love, because I do kind of like stealthy, sneaky, figure out the puzzle, move around elements in Zelda games. I love when you get an item and it recontextualizes an area. I think that's a ton of fun. I don't know if I love the timer thing. Actually, I wonder if there wasn't a timer at all, if I would feel a little bit better about this dungeon. I don't mind waiting for a phantom to walk around, you know what I mean? And every floor, another thing would get a little harder, or they would be like, okay, well, you've already been on this floor, but now there's these little eyeballs that fly around to make it a little bit harder. And I think for me, it just felt like the motivation for some of these things getting more difficult or getting easier didn't have that magic that was in like a traditional Zelda dungeon for me. I'm coming up with this as I speak about it, but like, let's just say like a water dungeon might be tedious, and you're finding things, you're figuring things out. Maybe you're cycling through it a few times, but when you finally realize like, oh, the water goes up and down, and isn't that beautiful? The water changes, and wait, so how does water work, and how does that change how I go through that hallway? How does it change this entire space, and what does it mean for this space? That's so sorry. Magical in a play experience. This one felt like homework or a worksheet. It didn't have that magic for me, in that it was kind of like X to Y to Z, switch out the variables. Now it's just go through this wall instead of that wall. And so there wasn't kind of that like awe for me as I was playing. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling and stumbling here, but am I making any sense?
You are making sense. I think it's interesting though, because I have a kind of a different take.
Please.
Because I actually feel like I felt the water dungeons in a lot of Zelda games were more tedious than the ocean temple for me, because in, say, some of those like classic Zelda dungeons, everything is constantly new, and you have to go back and kind of switch things and remember, okay, where was this? Whereas the Ocean King temple, to what you were saying, a lot of it was the same, but that allowed, at least for me, from a completionist and almost like a speedrunning type point of view, I remember this, so I know I can, when the night turns this way, I can quickly run and grab this thing, and then I can run and go through the whole floor in like 5 seconds, and then I can grab this and I can do that. Oh, now I have the grappling hook, so I can go over here. And so I did enjoy it from that aspect, because I could remember, I didn't really write on my map at all in this temple.
Did you use a walkthrough? It's okay if you did.
I did do a walkthrough the first time I went through any of the floors.
I did not use a walkthrough for this game ever.
Yeah. Which
is probably why I missed a lot of this cool content, honestly.
Zelda Dungeon. Love you.
Yeah.
But to that end, that might be why I enjoyed it more, because I didn't have that tedious trying to figure things out as much. If I ever got stuck, I just looked it up. But for the most part, I didn't use it too much on the initial floors until I started getting items and I needed to know if there was anything I missed on the floors that I needed to grab. But that was where it became fun for me, was when I started learning how to kind of bob and weave and dodge and kind of go quickly through these floors, because I kind of learned the patterns.
Yeah. I think we're circling in on something really interesting here that I didn't plan to talk about at all. And this is something I really appreciate about both of us hosting this show, because I think there's certain things we really love that are the same about Zelda games. And I think there's some things, different aspects of games that we love in different ways. I wonder if when this dungeon was being designed, it kind of satisfies that speedrunny feel. Like, oh, I can really lock in.
Yeah, they have the timer
and get
going.
good at this and this and this and this. And when I enjoy any Zelda dungeon the most is when it's not even about how I can do something. It's a lot of like the why. And you're a big lore person too. I know you are. But a lot of times for me, it's more like I don't really need to know that I can hit 5 switches in 5 seconds. I kind of want to know why those switches are there and why I'm doing these things and what's my emotions as I'm hitting these switches. Is it changing the culture of the blah, 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 or who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the stuff where I get really excited. I have zero emotions. I get no excitement. Well, that's a little dramatic.
Well, yeah.
About like just trying to execute the track, I guess. Yeah. And that's okay. And I actually really genuinely appreciate
play styles.
Play styles, yeah. And I'm so happy about that because it kind of allows us to convert, to talk about this. And I wonder if in some ways, because I guess kind of if we look at it through that whole like Groundhog's Day, cycle through it many times so you can get really perfect at it vibe, that's kind of the first time that a temple or a dungeon like that ever existed in a Zelda game. So for that, it really needs to be given some credit. And I wonder if the designers kind of had those similar instincts or I don't know, emotions or things that you're like pinging to as well. You see where I'm going with this a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's where some of the fun came in too, was when you get to those lower levels and there's like the little phantoms that go in between walls and you can hit them and get more time in your hourglass with them, and you can find little you go through it enough times, you remember, okay, I can jump over here to skip this section and then grab this pot that has more time in it, and then I can go down here and hit the phantom and grab another 30 seconds, and then I can come over here. So learning those paths and keeping an eye on your time and how can I get more time and get this at the bottom as quick as possible. And that being said, I really liked that final moment when you reach the final level before going to Bellum, and the knights appear in the Triforce symbol. You have to beat the first 3, the second 3, then the final 3, and then you get a chest from it. And then if you do it a second time, you get 2 chests from it, and you get like legendary ship parts.
Okay.
So a little fun fact there, but I enjoyed that.
That's cool. And I think too, then it's credit to, that's probably what the game was trying to, I'm realizing now, even though like critics were divided when this game came out, and I was one who was, I love to love things, but this dungeon didn't work for me. In fact, it almost breaks my experience of the game when I had to thought to myself like, oh God, I got to go back there and do all these horrible things.
Yeah.
And for no reason, okay, the phantoms have showed up, but like, why are the phantoms there? A lot of that kind of stuff, but it's okay. I'm actually admiring now that I think that dungeon is supposed to be that kind of dungeon.
Yeah.
The dungeon you're speaking about.
No, it is supposed to be that way, but also it's okay if something's not your cup of tea, I feel like that's what's great about Zelda games in general, is they try and do something different with a lot of their different games, and sometimes it's different in a way that it doesn't strike with you, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Literally the conversation we're having right now, you didn't really like this one part of the game, but that's okay. It didn't fully ruin your experience. I adored this part of the game.
Yeah. That's
completely fine. It's just 2 different playthroughs.
No, it's super cool. It's super cool. That's awesome. So, okay, cool. I wasn't sure which way that one was going to go for you. As I was playing it, for me, it's a bit of a, okay, now I'm getting dramatic, a bit of a dreck. But
that's okay.
But as I was playing, I was wondering, is this going to turn Kady off? Is she going to say, why am I back here again? But I'm so happy to hear that you had this other experience with it, and that's super cool. And it also helps me admire it even more.
Yeah. No, it was great. So talking a little bit about some of the bosses.
Let's do it.
Oh my gosh, this game did such a good job utilizing the double screen. I was shocked.
Yes.
I've never played a game like this before that did such a good job using both screens.
Revolutionary.
Literally.
Yeah.
And you can tell that from immediately with the first boss. It was Blas, the 3 different ghosts. And this was the start of the game before you really realize that you should be paying attention to the top of the screen. So you're running around and you have your boomerang and you're hitting the ghosts and you're like, why is nothing happening? Until you look up and you see each of them has a different horn number. So one of them that's floating around has 1 horn, another has 2, another has 3. And you realize that you can trace your boomerang in different shapes to hit them individually at different times. until you hit them in the order that it wants you to. They become the big one, you fight it, they go back into the 3, and you keep having to repeat this process.
If I remember correctly, when they're the 3, you still kind of have the map view up above,
you do.
Right? So it's just like, they're just like icons floating around.
Well, that's the thing. So when you're fighting them on the main screen, they don't have any horns.
Right.
They all look the same. You're like, why is this not working? It's not until you look up that you see on the map, it's telling you what order to hit them in. And that's when I realized I'm going to have to pay attention to this in the boss fights in this game, the upper screen. And I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. They really went for verticality where you couldn't normally in a game with some of these boss fights. I loved one of the standout ones for me. I mean, let's just go through the order, actually.
Yeah. No, we can keep going. Cyclock. I feel like Cyclock was one of the ones that wasn't as innovative to me, but I thought it was still fun because they made use of that verticality, like you were saying. Just the giant octopus that was flying in the air would cause different wind to blow. You would use your shovel to dig up and then throw the bombs in, and it would fly up to the top of the screen to hit Cyclock. So you had to pay attention on the top of the screen where Cyclock was going so you could follow it and throw your bombs up.
Well, I thought it was great, too. I thought that one was a standout one for me a little bit in that it was a cool metaphor, too, or an analogy. I don't know, because you can't touch the top screen in real life. You cannot control. Enough. And so then what happens is you're running around on the bottom screen. Yes, you can see the top and bottom. And yes, they're technically kind of a view of the same experience. But in real life, you've got this massive, let's just say, octopus floating over you, throwing bombs on you, do all the things like Link would think, I can't get up there.
Yeah.
What can I do? I can't get up there. And we as players in real life are like, we can't get up there. We can't even touch that screen. And so you have to, a little bit like the Arrow game, you have to like figure out, how do I get things up there when I can't get up there? And I'm saying it that way on purpose. And so that was super cool. It's also I feel like each boss was really expertly crafted as far as like increasing what it was asking of you for this dual screen experience.
Yeah. No, actually, I agree. I didn't even think about that from the perspective of I can't touch that, so how do I do that? I love that. I love that take. And I think you're exactly right that they slowly start adding more and more and more and more as you go on.
If memory serves, the third one is the one that's invisible sometimes. Is that right?
Yes, this is my favorite boss.
This thing kicks. I have included this boss in like top 10 boss fights, blah, blah, blahs in other episodes because this is so inventive what they do. I'll let you set it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the boss is Crayk. I think it's how you pronounce it. Crayk. And it's a crab. Yep. Easy enough. All right, cool. There's all the little crabs in the area. They don't really mess with you unless you get really close to them or you mess with them. But the whole thing is you get into this fight and then you're looking around. Where is this thing? You look up at the top screen. Why am I seeing myself?
Yes, exactly. It's awesome.
You're seeing yourself, and then why is the camera getting closer? Ow, what just happened?
Someone bumps into you.
You realize you're seeing through Craig's eyes. Because you can't see Craig, but Craig can see you. And this is where you have the arrows. So I was blown away at this, where you run around and you have to pull your arrow and you're moving around and you're moving around and you're watching that top screen. You're not even paying attention to the bottom screen mostly.
Correct. Yeah.
And you're just watching until you see yourself looking dead at the camera and you fire.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So cool, right?
It's so cool.
So cool. And eventually then it becomes visible again like that and you attack, its eye or its butt or it's something.
Yeah, you keep on trying to shoot and stun him until finally you shatter the shell, and then that mechanic's kind of over, and then, you just kind of run around and try and hit it with the shell. But I think that's one of the coolest, if not the coolest, bosses I've ever played in a game.
In a Zelda game or maybe even any game, because it perfectly reveals the clues you need to figure out what's going on inside the action. Like you might get hit once or twice, but it even has like running action lines on the top screen when it starts to charge you and stuff like that. So action packed, so cool. You're absolutely right with that idea of like you're actually looking at yourself through the eyes of another thing and you're trying to line the arrow up to fire it and you only have a few seconds. If you didn't have dual screens, I mean, like, how else do you show invisibility? This is just like the coolest, like that think tank when they were putting together these boss ideas and they were like, well, what about an invisible boss? But you can't see it, but you can see what it sees. And you have to deduce where it is. Mind blown.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Because you're completely right. If you don't have this dual screen mechanic and you're trying to make an invisible character, it's impossible to make it fully invisible. You can make it so like it's a little bit blurry in that spot. Okay, or that's like where it is. Or like you just see the dust
on the ground or something.
Yeah, but something that's truly invisible. You can move around this space. Nothing is there. You can't run into anything until it starts coming at you, and you can see it through your eyes, or through its eyes. It's very cool.
The only part where this is like 2% of an error is that there's no in-game logic as to why or how we could see that creature's POV. Whereas like later in the game, when Navi flies around behind Bellum, Navi's like, here, I'll tell you when I'm sorry, Ciela flies behind Bellum to like tell you when the eye is open. There's kind of a there's a not a context, but a justification or something. This one, it's like there's no maybe it'd be heavy-handed if they really needed it. Like, oh, you've got the special magical pad that lets you see the weird. We've tapped into the thing's brain. Like, we don't need that. We just keep moving. But that's the only like light inconsistency.
No, that's completely fair.
But who cares? It's so cool.
It's so cool. And then after that is actually my second favorite boss of this game, and that's the Cubis sisters on the ghost ship.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So the ghost ship, I feel like, is probably my favorite dungeon in general. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah. Wow.
It's the one I remember the most. So going through that, Linebeck's like, all right, have fun. See you later.
Yeah.
You go through, you run into one of the first girls, and she's like, my sisters are trapped on all these different floors. I need you to help them. You find out that they're afraid of spiders. You have to try and make sure you get the spiders gone along the way, because they do respawn. And also kind of sneaking them around the different spirits, and then you can still get trapped or caught by the spirits. And then if she screams, if she gets caught by like the spiders, and you have to run, and she's not following you, so you have to go back
scribble.
Exactly. So it's constantly like this back and forth, but you go down, you find one sister, you find the next sister, finally you get all four of them together, you reunite them. It's this sweet moment. You're like, oh, I did it. I reunited the family, and what else am I supposed to do here? And then they start talking, and they're like, thanks for getting us back together, Link, so we can end you. And then they turn into like these very evil, demonic, ghostly creatures.
And for the sake of the graphics, pretty scary looking.
They were terrifying.
Yeah.
And I loved that, because I did not expect it at all, personally.
Oh, really?
I had no clue what was going on. So when they had this moment, I'm like, I just helped you. So you go and you do this final boss where they just bring in the classic orb fight back and forth.
Yes. Yeah, it is the volleyball thing. And this was such a fun way of doing it. But I have to ask real quick. There's two things that I've been itching to say. I guess I'll do it as a question first. It's a little hot takey. But was there ever any point while you were playing that dungeon where they felt suspicious to you?
The only time that could have been is when you get one of the sisters and she tells you about the chests. There's 2 chests, and she's like, one of them has like a really good thing in it. I don't remember what actual direction. She's like, pick the left one, it's good. And if you go and you pick the left one, you like lose rupees. She, like, lies. But when I played it, I just thought that she was kind of stupid. Okay. She just didn't realize, and it's like, oh, you. And then we go back up. So I really was completely blind in this.
For me, from sister number 1, I was like, no, this is not good. This feels wrong. It was something about how they spoke or something. But also I might have been, here's my second point, queued up to it a little bit, because it's 4 sisters, but this whole thing kind of homages a dungeon from A Link to the Past, where there's like, you're saving someone and they're a little, you're not sure if you're saving the right thing or not, or whatever. I don't want to give too much away. But that was that, and then but then to get back onto this volleyball point, or this tennis thing that we talk about, such a fun way to take that classic move, that classic way of fighting, and kind of bring it into the 2 screens, but also having it be 4 players. And it does another great job. This game does amazing with the boss fights in scale and also in height. Because you're able to see towards the end of the ship on the top screen, and then them hovering up above. So you can tell, okay, they're really high up in the air. There's 4 of them moving around. I have to keep moving and keep an eye on, okay, which one is going to be shooting a laser? Which one's shooting the ball? Okay, I got the ball. We go faster and faster as we hit it around. And I have to keep an eye, because they're passing it between sisters to try and trick me. And then, you get the first one gone, you get the second one gone. Now it's getting even trickier. They're shooting out extra orbs where you can hit it, but then they splinter into other orbs that can hurt you, and you got to try and dodge those as you keep running. Oh, I missed it. Now they're going to try and fire really quickly at me. It's really fun.
And it just keeps going faster and faster. But I've always been a fan of that volleyball mechanic. And I think it's also a good ode. I know they did it before Wind Waker, but it's a good ode to Wind Waker with that Ganon fight, constantly doing the volleyball, bringing it into this next game.
Of course, Wind Waker was doing an ode to Ocarina of Time.
Exactly.
And Ocarina of Time was doing it from A Link to the Past, which is where I think it got started. I think. Yeah, love it. That was great. I did. My heart was definitely pumping during that fight with the 4, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was frustrating at times, but in a good way, where I was like, I missed it. Okay, throw it again. Yeah,
it is a little more action than it is puzzle, but it is puzzle in the action. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
No, I loved it. It felt challenging to me in a way that I thought was enjoyable. It wasn't crazy, but it was like, all right, let's keep going. Let's do it again.
Who is the next one? The 2 dragons? I'm forgetting what the order.
The next one is Don Garango.
Oh, it's this one. This one I struggled with for a while. I had to do this one a few times.
I'm grateful when I did this one that I'm a completionist and I had so many hearts because I didn't have to do it over again. I just accepted defeat and just let myself keep getting hit and just worried about actually doing stuff. Yeah. And I didn't end up dying because I was like, I got like 15 hearts at this point, whatever. But yeah.
I feel like I saw what they were going for. There was another one of these, like, what can we do with 2 screens? And maybe you control 2 characters. The thing is like you can only really control the character that's on the bottom screen, so you're swapping screens, and that's where the mechanic breaks down just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was cool. So yeah. There's the Goron, the little Goron.
Goron is his name.
Yeah. Which we never actually mentioned some of these Gorons in our Goron episode from like 5, 6, 7 years ago. We might have to do an additional Goron episode someday, especially now that Echoes of Wisdom is out and a few others. But I don't know. What was your going into it? And also, this one had a couple phases.
Yeah, actually. This one I think had 2 or 3 phases. My initial reaction was I was excited to switch between Gongoron because of the Wind Waker dynamics, where you're able to use the spell to control your partners. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of similar to that. That'll be cool. Where it became difficult was that constant screen switching, and for me, I didn't use the hotkeys to switch either, so I was constantly having to move, click, and you see I'm using Gongoron, I'm trying to hit this boss, but these things are coming at Link, but the big Don Garango or whatever is coming at me, so what am I supposed to do here? You're supposed to jump, attack with the Gongoron to stun him, and then you switch to Link and he uses his bomb shoot and traces it to attack. But there's so much going on, and all you can really use is your stylus, where things get kind of difficult with the timing and complicated, because you have to use your stylus to switch, use your stylus for Link to dodge the things, use your stylus for Gongoron to attack the Durango, and then also use your stylus while everything's happening to trace a path for the bomb chew.
Yes.
So it becomes really complicated really quickly.
I do feel like this is the one that kind of, I saw what they were going for, and this is the one that for me kind of just scraped over that line of being a little cumbersome with all the clicking and tapping. And also like switching the screens. I don't know if there was some way they could have had it something a little bit more, let's just say clever, kind of like our third boss, where you're seeing from a point of view or something like that, but to just flat out switch. And I think the thing that I was really getting caught with the most is having the little guys attack Link.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm in the middle of trying to throw this guy. Also, it was kind of fun because they were also referencing Dodongos liking to eat bombs and stuff like that. And you get into their mouths, and I think this thing actually, you attack it from the back. There's all these different fun tropes that they were playing with. But for me, the pieces just didn't quite come together.
It was very clever. I think that the boss would be perfect if they just got rid of the things trying to attack Link. If they just got rid of the things trying to attack Link, okay, fine. I don't got to worry about Link so much as so long as I'm worrying about Gongoron trying to do all the different things and then throwing the bomb chew with Link, that's perfect.
Or even if you wanted to put some pressure on having to switch back to Link, maybe it's just Link is slowly sinking in some sand and there's a little meter, instead of just always kind of guessing until it goes beep, 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 or whatever, instead of being are there bad guys around me, or where'd they come from, know what I mean?
That too. And even if they just threw one out occasionally, but instead they constantly had 3 different ones always coming after you. Right. They didn't have a chance to really not lose lives, I guess.
I found myself in this battle, instead of being able to execute on the strategy, a lot of times just swapping back and forth just to keep the two alive.
Exactly.
And I actually think that I usually perished by having the Goron get hit. He'd go out. I wouldn't control him correctly, and then of course Link, then you have to start the battle over. I think I had him be defeated, almost like 2-3 times. I played this one 5 or 6 times, and I probably didn't have a ton of hearts. But.
Yeah. That being said, once it reaches the second round and Gungoran's kind of out of the picture, it becomes a really fun fight, and it's relatively easy.
Honestly, I was kind of like, thank God.
No, I was too. No, absolutely. It switches to being like, okay, now we're just fighting a Durango. Perfect.
I know. And isn't that such a weird emotion? We should be having the opposite of like, this is so genius and brilliant, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So that boss was a little bit difficult, but that being said, I'm sure there's people out there that are like, this is revolutionary. This is amazing. More power to you. You have more strength and ability playing games than I do. This was just very difficult for me.
Yeah. I think the next one is the 2 dragons,
the
and I loved it.
Yes, the Gliok was very, very intriguing. So there's the dragon. We all know the Glioks. They even show up now in Tears of the Kingdom. That's where I first experienced them. Played this game. I was like, oh my God, there's the dragon thing. Double-headed, both of them. One has fire, one has ice. It almost feels like a call to, maybe they came before this, but Ocarina of Time with Twin Rova, with the fire and the ice. And so if you played Ocarina, you kind of already know what to do here.
I think this is the first time the Gliok was expressed to be elemental.
Okay.
To be elemental.
Yeah.
Like, Gliok was before in some other games, but it was just like a big green dragon or whatever,
So, you get the grappling hook. You know they shoot fire and ice. Obviously, you're going to have to hit fire at one and ice at the other. Here's where I was a little stupid.
Okay.
So, when you go into this fight, you're on a platform, and there's each corner of the thing, a place you can attach your grappling hook.
Yeah, there's like 2 pegs, A peg on each side,
You're supposed to... When the fire one shoots, say the fire one's on the right, you need to get it to the left, attach the top right corner to the left right corner, or to the left bottom corner, so it creates that slant to hit at the...
Yeah, like a little slingshot. They did teach you that in the dungeon, like they could create the slingshots,
Well, I didn't process, like you said, in the dungeon. You originally create them to just go straight across to fling yourself up on things, so I just was thinking, okay, I have to bait the breath to a certain side of it to bounce it. And I'm like, why is this so inconsistent? It worked a couple of times, but I'm like, why is this so inconsistent? Until finally, I'm like, I can just do diagonals. And the fight instantly got way easier.
And maybe that's the aha moment. I mean, because they definitely don't teach you the diagonals in the dungeon.
Yeah.
And maybe that is the point you're supposed to. That is the one extra thing that gets added to the boss fight. I will admit that I didn't immediately go to the diagonals myself. I think I was even trying to walk on the rope, and I thought, oh, do I need to get higher to hit these things back and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But super fun with the kind of shooting the elements back at the other dragons. But where I really had fun with was kind of yanking their heads in with the hook shot. I don't know why that was so satisfying.
No, absolutely. Finally hitting them and then yanking them in and hitting them, and then it'll go to the spot where the water rises up and it'll be ice coming down, and you have to dodge the ice as you run around, and then you go back to the initial fight. And you can jump up on the pegs. Exactly.
So when the wave comes, you jump on the peg. Oh, so cool, so fun.
Yeah, no, it's great. The timing can be a little bit tricky because you don't know which head's going at which time, and then you have to react quickly. But it adds a little bit of difficulty to the fight that would otherwise be kind of intuitive, which I enjoyed. So
yeah. I think the way they kind of use the dual screen here is basically maybe it's a little less mind-blowing as an invisible character, but I think the heads are always on the top screen and you're kind of pulling them down into your screen, right?
Yeah, you have to use the grappling hook to shoot up and pull them down.
Yeah, cool.
After the Gliok is one of the coolest ones, and that's Aox.
Is that the big robot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A big stone monster.
Yeah.
That is where they really used skill to their advantage.
Let's do it.
With the second screen. Because this thing comes up and you're Link on the bottom screen, and even then Link is tiny and he's leaning back, and with the scale it goes all the way up to the top screen, and even touching the top screen of this huge creature.
Yeah.
Thankfully, if you've played Zelda games, you know that you got the hammer in this dungeon, and he's got a lot of red buttons on him.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm surprised they weren't eyeballs, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So finally get to use the hammer. You got to do what I loved, which was flinging yourself up with the hammer on different things around. And while you're in the air is when you finally reach, he goes to the bottom screen because you're flying above him, and you're able to quickly kind of, with Ciela, move the hammer around, hitting as many as you can. You fall down, he throws stuff at you, you gotta hit those, run back to the other side of him before he turns around so you can get his backside, and you keep doing this until he starts falling apart, until finally you defeat him. I think it's such a cool boss design and a really fun way to do a boss like this.
Yeah, I liked it too. And then, it was super obvious with the little footprints on the pads, but I think it needed to be.
Yes.
And then you realize you can slam that with your hammer and then use the inverse energy to shoot yourself up. That was kind of a fun realization. Kind of when you're up there was a little part. I love this fight as well.
Oh, yeah.
My one critique was that it was kind of like I was just clicking real hard on the red buttons with my stylus.
Yeah.
But because I think really that is like Ciela is where she's like taking the hammer and floating it over.
Yeah.
So there's less, you kind of just fly up into the air and then tap on the red as much as you can. But it was very epic. It was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's where this game used cinematography to its advantage in a boss fight, because the boss itself is very easy. It's very obvious what you're supposed to do, and it's nothing crazy, but in the way that it's kind of, for the sake of this, I'm going to say filmed.
Yeah.
And the way the boss is designed, it makes it feel very epic, even though it's not that crazy of a fight. I think I enjoyed that. I appreciate
absolutely.
it.
I think there's a fight. One of my favorite boss fights of all time is in Twilight Princess, and I think it has some similar things. And when we play that game, maybe we'll be able to return to this moment where at the end of the day, maybe what's exactly happening isn't that hard, but it's so freaking epic.
Exactly.
That's a ton of fun.
And Aox is the last boss you fight before you reach Bellum, finally.
Yes. Now, I want to point one thing out. We've already been talking for almost an hour and a half. We're like way deep into this episode, and I love it. We have completely jumped over every single dungeon. But I think that's not exactly by accident. I don't think you and I really thought about this, but as we were talking about these bosses, I realized that I think another critique that I have of the dungeons in this game is that the graphic style, this kind of like looking straight down onto you never really see a ceiling, you never really see a wall, really a wall. You're kind of looking into like a mouse maze a lot of times is what it feels like. I felt like none of the dungeons, I found myself oftentimes not, kind of getting confused as to which dungeon was like when I was remembering, they all kind of looked very, very similar. Obviously there's different colors and there's ice and there's things and you learn new mechanics, but at the end of the day, the graphic style for me wasn't different enough to really have the dungeons stand out that much, other than kind of learning a slight new puzzle or two with the new item you got.
Yeah, that's also why I said the ghost ship is my favorite, because it's the only one I remember. So I'm like, okay, clearly this was my favorite then, because I only remember the ghost ship. But I think that also is the reason, because I feel like a lot of them were very short as well. There weren't any really crazy long dungeons. It was mainly just, here's the item, here's how you use it, go fight the boss.
That's actually a really good point. I don't know if any of them, and I did not use walkthroughs, I don't know if I ever played any one for like even an hour.
Yeah, no, they were all very, very short for the most part. Even with the completionist stuff running around, I think I beat all of them within like maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really had any mini bosses within the dungeons. It was just straight to the big boss.
And I think we should point out that these dungeons and this design and this aesthetic was a little bit of an experiment for Nintendo. This is really the first time that we had a 3D engine homaging a 2D playstyle. So all of the 2D games, let's say the top-down games before this, Minish Cap, Link to the Past, blah blah blah, the others, they really were just sprites. They really were truly two-dimensional game engines. This one was a 3D game engine. It had polygons and all the things. That's how they got all the cool shots. And I think this was their first try, their first crack at how do you take like a 2.5D game, a 3D looking game, and make it feel like a 2D game. And then that would be later on more realized, perhaps even better realized in A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. And then, of course, later on, the Link's Awakening remake and stuff like that. And what we have now in Echoes of Wisdom, there's an evolution of that style. And so if in some ways this aesthetic and this style and even these mechanics of these dungeons felt a little basic or a little egg carton or a little copycat, and they didn't necessarily stand out that much, I don't think that that's horrible, but I did feel that way a little bit.
No, absolutely. I don't have much to say in the dungeons because I don't really remember them. They're all very short, but that being said, this entire game was a little bit short. I would say as a game, if you play it normally and you just kind of play your way through it, maybe 15, 20 hours.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. It didn't overstay its welcome.
I wonder if they had the dungeons be a little shorter by design, because of course this is also in a time in video game history where designers were learning how long and short should something be for a handheld system.
Exactly.
When kids are cracking open the clamshell and playing for 5 minutes and slamming it back shut, how long should a dungeon be?
Yeah. I don't think that it hindered the game at all, because it just let you get kind of straight to the action and keep going. And it didn't make me want for more. This game didn't make me want for more, and it didn't make me feel like it was too long. I felt like a nice little sweet spot for just a short, to-the-point Zelda game, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. I just wanted to address the dungeon thing, because I was realizing it as we were talking about these bosses, that really it was the bosses that shine.
Exactly.
And the dungeons were serviceable, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I agree. So the final boss is Bellum. Crazy jellyfish tentacle boss. You have to defeat him to let Oshu become the Ocean King again and get Tetra's life force back. And there's this whole thing where you do the first fight. This thing has like 3 different
kind of phases
in a way.
Yeah,
kind
almost
of like,
literal layers and levels.
Yeah.
In this, you're talking about the spiral staircase part, right?
Well, just in general.
Oh, okay.
I would say the spiral staircase is the first phase.
Yeah.
Where you use your grappling hook to kind of grab the goo off of it, you fight it, you go out to the next part, you're shooting the eyes, you go back down, you go back up, kind of back and forth. You get into a rhythm with it. Mm-hmm. You learn very quickly where and when like the little mini creatures are going to drop when you're running up the stairs, so you can quickly run up and hit them and keep going. But then is when Ciela gets her memories and powers back, and you think, I beat it. Beautiful. They pull kind of the Tears of the Kingdom, or they do this in a lot of Zelda games, where you think you beat the boss, and it gets me every time.
He's not yet dead.
Yeah, I never learn. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're done. Ciela gets her powers back. Everyone's like, yay! Tetra's back. Everything's great. And it comes back. You see it flying over to a ship, and you're like, oh, great. Takes over the ship. And this is where Linebeck kind of comes in, where he's like, I'm going to steer, you do your thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. There's a couple times in the game where you go to an island and you have to draw the path and then still fire, and it's like, okay, got to keep in track. They didn't want you to worry about that in this one. There's a lot you had to do. You got to fire all the different eyeballs, and you have to do it in like quick time and numerous times to try and get rid of them, and then the thing is on top. It's a little bit difficult, especially because you're also trying to hit what it's shooting at you. But I like that you learn earlier in the game with things similar to this, that if you hit those things, you get some hearts back.
And if they land in the water, they like beeline straight to you too.
They do, but you can still hit them in the water.
Absolutely.
Which is what you learn with Joanna, the pirate ship, when she shoots at you in the water. I also like that they let you, again, like you said, they kind of are meta in this game, and they let you know, hey, we might want to get our best ship together before we go out. So I tried my darndest to get all the ship parts, and I couldn't do it.
I got really close to getting all the demon parts.
Me too.
I think those are just the easiest ones to get, and honestly, that's like not how I wanted my ship to look.
Oh, I liked the demon ship.
I kind of went with the simple cannon. I liked the rope sides. I think I wanted something a little more quaint, I guess. But
no, that's fair. I ended up getting everything for the demon ship except for the horn in the back.
The horn, you, like the chimney thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I ran with.
Cool.
What was your ship that you ran with in the final boss?
Well, it was pieces. It was just disparate pieces. I was starting to build up to demon ship, and I ended up just kind of having, like I said, I think I really liked I had a couple cannons. I ended up going. I had the castle on the back for a while, but then I went back to was like a real simple looking cabin. I can't even remember what it was, but I had gained it halfway through the game. It was a bit round, maybe a red top. I did get the rupee anchors, which was tons of fun. So I kept them out front, and then a simple I don't know, prow or hook thing in the front, and then I liked the small cannon, and then I somewhere along the line got like literal rope edges, and that was it. And I think the chimney, I made it as small as possible.
So how many hearts did you end up going into this with? Because it sounds like you just got a lot of pieces together.
I don't think I can even remember. Maybe like 6.
Because 6 is the max you can get.
If
you team up, was it like 3 or 4?
Ship hearts? Yeah, I think maybe 4. Because that's the green hearts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went into this with 6, I believe.
Yeah.
Which I think is the most you can get without having the entire set.
I don't think I ever gained an extra heart, a ship heart, ever.
Okay, so you have 3.
Maybe I gained 1.
Yeah, maybe you won.
I definitely had 4 at one point.
Because I was going to say, if you paired like maybe 2 of the same parts, they'll give you an extra heart.
Maybe that's what happened, because also I never depleted those hearts in the whole game, and I never really found myself needing to care about the hearts. I'd lose 1 or 2, or maybe in a certain, when you're breaking down the ice island, and you're also fighting the pirates. I got the closest there, where I got down to like 1 heart, and I was smoking or whatever. But that was the only time. I think that was actually weirdly a part I never really paid that much attention to in the game.
No, that's fair. I was a little upset because it's so difficult to get the pieces in those games. Literally the only way is you do the sync hook or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I like that mechanic a lot.
I thought it was fun. A cool little mini game.
But it's not like, each one is a specific item. It's randomized every time. So
I didn't know that.
You can get like 5 of the same piece.
Can you go back to the same spot? Mm-mm. Oh, weird.
It's gone. So then the only way you get pieces is from Beetle. But Beetle, it's also randomized. And so you'll go in, okay, this is the piece that he had yesterday. Go exit the game entirely, set my time to the next day.
Wait, IRL?
Yeah. It changes IRL. And also,
holy moly.
They also tap into that because Beetle, it changes his time on the weekdays and then on the weekends. But at certain times, he becomes the disguised ship that he has in Wind Waker, where he has like the gladiator mask and everything. And he has more expensive items there.
Oh, wow. I saw the mask one time. I didn't realize that was what was going on.
Yeah, it's all time-based.
Dang.
So, yeah, they tap into that. But anyway, you go into the ship, fight the thing. Awesome. We beat it again. No, we didn't. Third round time.
Yeah.
And this is where the thing comes. It grabs Link.
I wanted to point out too, when we're chasing the ship, it is the fire your cannons at the eyeballs. There's eyeballs all over the ship. Fire your cannon at the eyeballs, and there's 2 final eyeballs. You hit all the eyeballs, and the ship goes down, and then we're here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have that moment that we talked about earlier. Tetra's back, but Tetra and Link are captured. Linebeck hits the thing finally with his sword, and the thing possesses Linebeck. Yep. He becomes this big, gross-looking knight. And you're like, how do I fight this thing? Because you're trying to hit it, and it just keeps hitting you back and knocking you away. And you can't really block in this game. So what am I supposed to do here? Until you see Ciela points out on this back, there's an eyeball, and she flies to the back. And I forgot to point out, too, in the first phase of this, after you do the back and forth, up and down, it starts going away in circles really fast, and the only way you can hit it is if you learn that Ciela can stop time.
Right.
And that's where you can hit it. So this comes back in this final boss.
Am I going crazy? My memory is that I froze time before the eyeball thing, and then Ciela said something like, I don't get it. It's not working. Like I'm freezing time, but he doesn't have a weak spot or something.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yeah, she does it the first time. She's like, let's freeze time. Which I think is also kind of fun because you have to like quickly whip out and like draw the triangle. And I feel like the way they made it is that it's much more forgiving when you draw in this final part.
I'm sure.
Because I didn't mess up at all when I was drawing the hourglass.
I also think I never got the like noise or whatever. Yeah.
So I think they were much more forgiving. So freeze time, you're hitting Linebeck, nothing's happening. She flies back. Okay, there's an eye on the back. This has to be Bellum. And that's where, like you mentioned earlier, the top screen comes up and she's on where the eye is. So you have to kind of bob and weave and dodge until it opens and then quickly draw and then go around.
Yes. So the top screen turns into not exactly her view, but kind of actually. And I think the idea here is that in game she's just hollering to Link like, okay, now, but you get to see her view on that top screen. And did you notice that when time freezes and you run around, she's still watching on the top screen? You can see yourself.
Yeah, you can.
You can see yourself like from a different point of view. It's very cool.
It's very cool.
So the
I love that.
I just realized the engine's running that math twice.
Mm-hmm. It just has different camera angles.
Yeah.
And I liked the fight too because you have to stun him to kind of like get his eye open sometimes. And so you have to like hit. And then I know after a certain amount of hits, he's going to hit back. So I have to run around him and then freeze time so I can hit his back. Yeah, it's a fun fight. He goes away. Everything's saved. Linebeck's back. Love him.
Yeah, we have our big dramatic moment that we kind of already talked about almost an hour ago.
Yeah. I think it's a great final boss, though.
Yeah, I think, I remember, well, also it kind of felt like Bellum kind of changed size a little bit. It felt like he was real big in the first phase and kind of small by the third phase, but I don't think that matters.
I think also, though, that accounts to the fact that his powers are dwindling down.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you take him down.
Because that's what happens when you get him the first time and you have this, like, Tetra's back, but Oshu is like, well, my powers still aren't all back. Something's not right here. Yeah. And then you see it come back, but it's a little bit smaller.
You're right. That's a very good point. I didn't really think about that. I also would like to point out that the kind of like 3 very different phases of combat happening in this game are very similar to the 3, maybe 4 very different phases of combat that happen in the final battle in Twilight Princess. And they're actually, and these games are being developed at the same time with IG Aonuma as a producer for both. It's kind of interesting. Pardon me. in Twilight Princess, the first phase is kind of like battle the big beast. Second phase is, it's not a spoiler, on horseback, and you're chasing things and fighting while you're chasing things. And then the third beat is a sword fight.
Yeah.
This is like the same beats in this game. Anyways, I don't think it's a positive or negative. I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
No, I adored this game. I thought this was great. I'm very excited to play Spirit Tracks. I think this just kind of increased my interest in DS and 3DS Zelda games.
And now the 3DS games, like A Link Between Worlds and stuff, they go back to more of a classic control style, of course. But there are some touch mechanics. Spirit Tracks, I have not experienced this, but Spirit Tracks, I understand, has let's say an item that you execute it by literally blowing on the screen. It's like a wind amplifier. And I have heard tales from others that you start to hyperventilate because you're sitting there going blowing on your DS. But we'll discover that in a year or so when we play that game. But yes, I also very much enjoyed this game when it first came out. Now that I've played some of the, I kind of made that point earlier about how the 2D, 3D, the 2.5D style games have their vernacular have matured over the past 15 years or so, to the point where we're getting stuff like what we have in Echoes of Wisdom now. But for a first crack, and for taking a system that could do 3D but wasn't very powerful, and was really trying to look like a GameCube game as far as like using models that were it was certainly significantly less polygons, but like basically taking the models from Wind Waker and expressing them in this game where they couldn't actually render that much. I was in. I loved all of it.
That's what I thought was cool when I played this, is because I played Wind Waker HD. I've never played the GameCube version. So when I played this, I was like, oh, this is kind of what they would have looked like in the original.
It's not too far off. Yeah. I remember when it first came out, playing it on the DS, you could tell that there were less pixels on the screen, but it was kind of like, if you squinted, it kind of looked like Wind Waker.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think we've expressed them all at different points in this episode. Thoughts about the dungeon, thoughts about the art style, thoughts about the controls. I think maybe the one last thing, because I know this has turned into an epic episode, and I love that. But we usually let the review episodes be almost 2 hours long. By the way, when we were talking about the claw shot game, or the grabbing treasure from the ocean floor, I thought that was so fun, because in Wind Waker you really just had to find the spot and then it would go down and come back up. And I thought, oh, another clever use of the dual screen.
Yeah, I was shocked when I did my first one. I'm like, it's a mini game.
Yeah, it's a mini game. I got to work for this, but it was a fun little one. And sometimes it's frustrating. It's supposed to be. It's a little mini game. I thought that was cool. But to that point, there's a very sailing around is done very, very differently in this game. In Wind Waker, you strike your sail, you change the direction of the wind, and you're off, baby. And in this game, I thought it was very smart that they clearly, if you're designing in reverse, they're like, well, we want to use the touchscreen. What if you can draw your route? And I'm sure at first it's like, well, wind doesn't work that way. That's not very wind-like. And I'm sure someone in development said, well, what if it's not a sailing ship? What if it's a steamboat and it can do its own route? And then someone says, yeah, that's fine. But if you're going to draw the line, why don't we just have it steer? If you're the pilot of the ship, the captain of the ship, why don't we just have them steer the boat around? And they thought, well, how do we motivate that you have to draw a line? Got it. You have a secondary character. He's the captain of the ship. You chart the course and he follows it. Like, you can just see them. You can just imagine them reverse engineering this thing. Yeah. And I think that they did it beautifully is my kind of final takeaway there. I don't know. Yeah.
And with that, I appreciate that they made the ocean a little bit smaller. So because they made it that you need to pay attention when you're charting your ship. Whereas, like you said, in Wind Waker, especially in the GameCube days, you'd kind of put the direction you're going, and you'd set your controller aside and kind of go and do stuff, and then you'll come back. All right, we're there finally. Yeah. Whereas in this, they wanted you to pay attention because there's creatures that can pop out of the water that you got to fight and all that. So how do we keep their attention but still not make it seem like it's forever moving? And that's where they made the ocean a little bit smaller, so it's a little bit quicker to get places. And then they also introduced the golden frogs, where you can kind of fast travel as well. So I feel like they did a really good job making it so sailing never felt super tedious in this game.
I agree completely. And then the final note about sailing, I have is the one letdown, but I think it's completely justified, and I totally get it, is that they don't stream load the islands. You can't just pull up on an island.
Exactly.
They're kind of like abstract versions, then they have to load the island. But that's clearly because of the limitations of the DS.
Exactly.
And I'm just happy they made the ocean in the first place. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I don't blame them at all for that. I think they did really good with what they could do at the time with the DS.
Yeah.
I think it was... I'm playing it now on the DS. I was shocked at how much they were able to do with it.
Ooh, I just got a great idea. I think maybe we should do this every time we review a Zelda game. Let's finish on this if you don't mind. For someone who's curious about this game, who's listening to our show, maybe they haven't played it yet. We have a lot of listeners that were introduced to Zelda with Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. Do you feel that there are any games that should be played before this one to get ready for this one?
Honestly, the only one I would say is probably Wind Waker.
Sure.
Because I feel like with this being a direct sequel to Wind Waker, it would help you to get attached to the characters, especially attached to Tetra, to give you a motivation for, okay, why are we just going to save her? But other than that, obviously you could learn a little bit from some of the other 3DS ports, but this is one of the first DS games for Zelda in the first place, so they make it very intuitive. Honestly, I don't think any of the other DS games are played this way, so it would honestly kind of be a hindrance to play some of the other ones where you're used to using your control.
Well, and I don't want to push my glasses up my nose, but actually, the two DS games are played this way, and then the 3DS games are played the other way. That's a little bit of a technicality.
No, that's completely fair. I've never had a 2DS. So that's why.
A 2DS or not even a 2DS.
A regular DS.
Even a 2DS still had the better processor. This is just a DS.
Yeah, I've never had one.
Yeah.
So only growing up, the first one I ever got was a 3DS.
Right.
So that's completely fair. Thank you for telling me that, because
Hey,
I had no clue. So yeah, I would say just Wind Waker first, which if you don't have a Wii U, then good for you, because there's a new GameCube port over on the Switch too. So there you go.
Is there? It's on the GameCube NSO. Oh, yeah.
That was what they announced, is that the Wind Waker's on there.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I think I agree. Wind Waker's probably the only thing you need to play, or
you don't even
I would
have
recommend.
to.
No. Yeah, but if you're curious about this game and you're thinking about like, what order should I, if I want to go back into the Zelda library and the Zelda history, which games should I play? Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe lightly A Link to the Past or Link's Awakening, but that's only so that you can experience a 2D top-down game and have something to kind of reference off of. But there aren't any story connections or anything like that, or even the playstyle's completely different.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that question. That's good. I also think that this is a great game for a beginner Zelda player to play.
I think it was designed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Awesome. David, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
If the audience wants to find me, they can find me on X and Blue Sky and all the things, and the Instagrams and the whatevers at Raptor Paint. Super easy, Raptor Paint.
Beautiful. You can find me at the letters KD Stargazer over on Instagram and TikTok, mainly Instagram though. And you can find Another Zelda Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're Another Zelda Pod on like everything. And also have a website called Another Zelda Podcast where you can check us out. And also, there's a lot of other 6.5 shows that you can go check out. I know I've been hearing a lot of good things about another Pokemon podcast.
Another Pokemon podcast. They are killing it.
Yeah. So if you're a Pokemon fan, go check them out as well. So yeah, also we have a Patreon. So go check us out on Patreon. Become a Magical Sword person. You get some extra content. It's great.
We have 3 tiers. Magical Sword tier, which has a lot of extra bonus content and videos of us. We're waving to our Magical Sword people right now. We've set up cameras in the studio and record ourselves doing this and kind of hang out with them a little bit extra. We have a White Sword tier, which is episodes with a little extra content, and they come out a week early than they do for the public. As well, we'll throw bonus episodes on there. Some of the most recent bonus episodes Kady and I recorded were ones about our reactions to the Zelda film casting. I think we did a few. It was, a lot of times we'll kind of do our slightly more newsworthy episodes there if there's like a release or a trailer.
Something that's not as evergreen.
Something that's not as evergreen, that's not part of like our normal show library. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think we can leave it there.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
We're working on another one. We got a new 6.5 show coming out that's going to be very cool. It's going to be a fictional narrative show that is probably won't see the public until 2026, a little bit, early 2026. But can't wait to make that one. That's one that Kady and I are working on together as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And we'll check you out at the next one.
Okay, bye.